Stick with me. We are diving into the Adventurers Guild, where Lauren sits hearing wild rumors about a completely ruined village near the Chaos Forest. While others argued over which monster caused the mess, Lauren faced a much bigger personal problem. He was totally broke. Lauren used to be a fierce mercenary, but his squad was lost in a massive recent conflict. He barely made it out, left with just his leather armor, a giant greatsword, and silver. Since mercenaries were basically seen as greedy thugs who fought for coin, he had absolutely zero friends left. To survive, he registered as a lowly copper rank adventurer at the absolute bottom level, but lacked any teammates. He almost settled for a cheap job cleaning gross sewers when a young blonde swordsman named Sarf suddenly approached him. Sarf offered Lauren a quest spot. The kid was super optimistic, dreaming of heroics, which felt completely naive to a seasoned veteran like Lauren. Still, Lauren really needed the cash, so he listened. The squad included Sarf's childhood buddy, Nareen, a thief who expertly handled traps and complicated locks, plus Oxy, a blonde mage casting 3 daily spells, and Lapis, a knowledge priestess with 2 heals. Honestly, these girls were not thrilled about Lauren. Nareen openly distrusted his mercenary past, but Sarf insisted they desperately needed another heavy frontline fighter. Lauren didn't plan on staying forever. He just wanted enough cash to bounce back. Watch closely here. Their mission was heading to Village A to hunt down some pesky goblins in the woods, while everyone else loudly complained about missing out on cooler ruin explorations. Lauren seriously asked for specific enemy details. Sarf had zero useful info, casually brushing them off as just goblins. Though Lauren saw they were completely disorganized and overconfident, he agreed to meet tomorrow. He spent his last coins on 6 days of food. Next day, standing by Kaffa's gates, ready for work, Lauren watched a guard and realized he never truly understood the hometown concept. Spending his absolute entire life as a wandering mercenary, jumping from one battlefield to another, he never stayed anywhere long enough to call it home. He felt slightly jealous of the guard's simple routine, but knew that settling down meant finding entirely new survival methods. With his old crew gone, his only real choices were finding a new squad or changing careers. Suddenly, Sarf's flashy party showed up. Sarf clearly led the pack, looking way too proud, flanked by a few girls who were geared much better than Lauren. The gate guard's friendly mood instantly soured the second he looked. "I know what you're thinking," and the guard totally agreed, pulling Lauren aside, warning him to ditch the sketchy guy traveling only with girls. Lauren just brushed it off as pure jealousy and joined. With the 3-day journey ahead, Sarf rented a carriage to save time. This put Lauren in a seriously tough spot. He was totally broke after buying basic supplies and had zero cash for the fare. Just as panic set in, Lapis, the quiet priestess with long dark hair, missed him struggling. Smiling, she secretly slipped 10 copper coins into his hand, calling it an investment to repay later. Lauren was absolutely stunned. Mercenaries never loaned cash because borrowers usually vanished before paying up, but he incredibly, gratefully accepted her help. They hopped right into the farmer's carriage, sitting empty after he sold his city crops. The ride was faster, but meant an overnight trip. While others chatted or slept, Lauren stayed quiet. Once night fell, they pitched camp in an open field. Lauren grew super frustrated by their loud, reckless behavior. Lighting huge fires and making noise out here was basically inviting hungry monsters to a free dinner. Making things worse, Sarf ordered Lauren to pull the first guard watch totally alone. In the rough mercenary world, you always guard in pairs for safety, but Sarf's rookie squad completely ignored basic survival rules. When Lauren argued, Nareen snapped at him to obey orders. Sitting by the fire, Lauren heard suggestive noises from Sarf's tent. Sarf was clearly busy having fun with 2 of the girls, making the thought of waking him up feel completely awkward. While Lauren sat there feeling annoyed, Lapis quietly stepped out of her tent. Unable to sleep over the noise next door, she decided to keep him company. They chatted, and Lauren realized Lapis wasn't like those stiff, greedy priests he knew. She was beautifully sarcastic, totally grounded, serving the knowledge god. She asked why a guy like him became an adventurer. Lauren admitted his mercenary squad was completely gone, and he was just trying to survive the only way he knew how. So what do you and I make of this? Looking at his battered greatsword, Lapis saw a man built for intense combat. Alright, stick with me here. You and I are jumping into an incredibly fun adventure. For once, Lauren felt less alone waiting for sunrise, casually comparing his massive greatsword to Lapis's waist. The massive metal blade was insanely heavy, but our hero swung it around like a feather. Lapis, a cheerful young church priestess, was absolutely amazed by his crazy strength. Testing a silly theory, she backed up, proving her waist was actually thinner than the weapon. Lauren totally noticed her curves, but he kept quiet just to avoid making things awkward. They happily chatted until dawn broke. Lauren completely avoided their tent, where the supposed party leader, Sarf, was busy hanging out with the other girls, Narine and Oxy. Lapis stayed right by his side, happily sharing tales of her sheltered church life, while Lauren kept his rough mercenary past to himself. Morning came. Sarf and the girls strolled out looking super messy and carefree. Honestly, their total lack of professionalism just disgusted Lauren. Right then and there, he firmly decided to ditch this ridiculous squad after the job. The group headed for a small village protected by a flimsy wooden fence. The cheerful locals lived in constant terror of a goblin nest hiding nearby. Sarf was way too confident, completely refusing to consult the village chief for details. He just wanted to charge into the woods. Narine, their arrogant thief, constantly insulted Lauren, calling him a cheap mercenary and claiming he was only hired to be a shield. Lauren brushed off the trash talk. Though he was annoyed, they packed zero basic supplies like bandages. Inside the dense forest, this squad was a complete disaster. Sarf, Narine, and Oxy randomly picked berries instead of hunting. Lapis tried keeping them focused, but they just ignored her. Now watch closely, because things get wild. Lauren waited for trouble. Soon enough, he sensed movement, drawing his giant sword right as ugly green goblins launched an ambush. Enemy arrows flew from above. One grazed Oxy. Instead of fighting back, Sarf and Narine completely panicked, leaving themselves wide open. Lauren immediately stepped up and swung his massive blade to save them. He did not just cut them, he absolutely crushed them. One goblin was shattered through its shield and obliterated, while another was completely knocked out cold. Once Lauren cleared the immediate danger, the surviving goblin archers totally fled. Sarf, who literally did nothing, suddenly acted tough and ordered a full chase. Lauren strongly warned that charging into a nest without a plan was terrible, but Narine arrogantly told him to shut up. As they followed the enemy trail, Lapis stuck right beside Lauren. She innocently claimed she was just following formation, but it was incredibly obvious she felt way safer near him than her own teammates. As they ventured deeper into the woods, Lauren quietly asked Lapis for her totally honest opinion on how skilled Sarf and the others were. You and I both know their luck was fading fast. Lauren looked at Sarf, realizing the guy was a complete amateur. In any real mercenary crew, Sarf would be instantly kicked out or used as bait. Lapis, the cheerful priestess of the knowledge god, completely agreed with him. She asked Lauren if he knew about the Iron Fist, an epic mercenary so incredibly strong, he was basically a one-man army. When Lauren asked if Sarf was anywhere near that level, Lapis playfully joked that 10 million Sarfs could never beat him. It was absolute proof this team was incredibly weak, and Lauren only stayed because his pockets were completely empty. They finally reached the goblin nest cave. Sarf tried being sneaky, but was ridiculously loud, and the incredibly tight space meant Lauren could not even swing his massive greatsword properly. Narine, the useless scout, mocked him for hesitating, so Lauren just sighed and accepted it. Sarf confidently handed him a terrible, blunt goblin sword, which was barely better than nothing. Oxy, the team mage, lit her staff with a bright spell. Lauren instantly cringed, realizing they had not even entered the cave yet. It was basically screaming their exact location to the monsters, but he was too tired to argue. Inside, having zero guards gave Lauren the creeps. He whispered to Lapis it was totally a trap, joking that even wild monkeys know to post lookouts. Pushing deeper, Sarf spotted a brightly lit chamber and foolishly decided to charge in head first to block incoming arrows. Lauren was completely stunned by this absolutely terrible plan. Oxy wasted a limited spell to shield Sarf, but when Lauren asked for magic protection, she rudely told him to just use his giant sword as a shield instead. The second they charged, disaster struck. Sarf and Oxy clumsily tripped over a hidden pit, falling for the most basic trap ever. Goblins instantly rained arrows from above. Sarf took hits to his shoulder and leg, while Narine caught a sharp arrow in the side. At the very back, Lauren finally spotted their boss, a sneaky goblin mage. This was a high-rank monster, incredibly smart, and far more dangerous than usual. Lauren realized they were completely doomed, especially when he looked back and saw another huge goblin group blocking the exit. They were totally trapped. Oxy desperately tried a sleep spell, but the mage instantly blocked it. Suddenly, Lapis collapsed into Lauren's arms. "Trust me, you and I are absolutely not ready for what happens next. Stick with me, you and I are watching this absolute nightmare." Take down injured Sarf. Those monsters tackled Narine and Oxy to the ground. The girls screamed desperately, but Lauren knew saving everyone was physically impossible. Today, just for a split second, he honestly considered leaving Lapis behind to save himself. She even told him to run, but Lauren firmly refused. He securely tucked her under his arm, gripped that heavy, blunt sword, and simply bolted. Moving like an absolute beast, he tore right through those goblins. He smashed them aside, completely ignoring the heartbreaking screams of his fallen party members. Behind him, a goblin mage blasted a fiery spell right into his shoulder, but our Lauren never flinched. That pain just made him wildly faster. He closed the gap in an epic flash, reaching that mage before another spell dropped. He refused to let anyone else fall today. Lauren fiercely charged the goblin mage, completely ignoring that awful, throbbing pain in his arm. He swung his heavy wooden club with everything he had, crushing that creature absolutely instantly. As the enemy collapsed, Lauren quickly snatched a glowing necklace from it. It was the exact same item, totally messing up their magic earlier. Having literally zero time to stick around, he tossed that broken club and quickly ducked into a nearby tunnel. Now watch closely. Completely paralyzed, Lapis gives him this seriously strange, intense look right here. She muttered that he should have just left that necklace behind, but Lauren totally ignored her. He was way too busy navigating the pitch-black tunnel. Even without any torch, he somehow managed to keep a steady pace. Lapis was genuinely impressed, asking if he could see in the dark. Lauren just told her to stay quiet so he could focus. He wasn't using magic. He was using a brilliant old mercenary trick, listening to his own echoing footsteps to safely map out the walls. Super risky, because one wrong step meant slamming hard into jagged rock. Lapis eventually got totally bored of being hauled like a sack of grain, so she used her mana to spawn a soft white light. She firmly asked Lauren to carry her on his back instead of under his arm. Instantly, after he adjusted her, her personality hilariously flipped back to polite and formal. She sweetly thanked him for saving her, before asking a shockingly blunt question. Why exactly did he save her while letting the others fall? Lauren honestly didn't sugarcoat his answer. He explained, she either just got super lucky, or he simply refused to go down while he still owed her a massive pile of money. Moving deeper, Lauren definitely noticed Lapes acting strange. He asked why her speech pattern totally changed, and why her body had completely shut down during that intense battle earlier. Lapis was pretty hesitant at first, but she finally decided to trust him. I know what you're thinking, but boom, she is actually full demonkin. Lauren was shocked. Demons were rarely ever seen in human lands, and they absolutely never worshipped gods. Lapis explained that she strictly followed the god of knowledge, who completely ignored love or peace for pure information. Because of this crazy fact, she wielded both holy arts and regular magic, which was completely unheard of for humans. Then she revealed the real reason for her paralysis. Her arms, legs, and even eyes weren't real. They were high-tech artificial replacements. Her wild parents had taken her real limbs and eyes as a twisted test, hiding them somewhere across the human world. She could only ever move these fake mechanical limbs by constantly pumping them full of mana. That Goblin mage's necklace emitted an anti-mana field that completely drained power, explaining why her entire body forcefully shut down and Oxy's spells instantly failed. Lapis honestly admitted that during extreme danger, her battle personality took control, which totally explained her icy, direct tone earlier. She thanked Lauren once again for not abandoning her, dramatically noting that demons never forget a debt. As they jogged further ahead, the tunnel felt incredibly wrong. It was way too straight, incredibly long, and totally stopped looking like a natural cave. It truly felt like walking directly into a man-made structure. Right when Lauren started wondering if they were strolling blindly into an ambush, a mysterious faint light appeared ahead. It definitely wasn't a torch or sunlight. It was something totally different. Lauren immediately slowed his pace, moved super quietly, and told Lapis to dim the light instantly to stay hidden. Lauren and Lapis stealthily crept straight toward that strange, faint light at the tunnel's end. Lapis was still completely paralyzed and felt pretty terrible about being useless. So Lauren kept carrying her. He gave her a serious warning. If danger appeared, he might actually drop her to draw his huge sword. Since these incredibly narrow walls left zero room to maneuver, they eventually discovered a very tiny crack in the stone wall where that mysterious light glowed. It was way too tight to squeeze through, and since Lapis was paralyzed, Lauren decided to physically widen it. He gently set Lapis down and swung his heavy sword like an oversized pickaxe, fiercely chipping the rock. It was slow, painfully loud work that risked attracting monsters, but luckily they stayed undisturbed. Once the gap was finally big enough, Lauren squeezed through first, then carefully pulled Lapis right across. You and I just found a massive hall that clearly is not a natural cave. The stone walls and floor were glowing softly. Lapis quickly identified this as mana material, a brilliant ancient technology that literally turned wild energy from the air into pure light. Stick with me, she realized they just stumbled into ancient kingdom ruins, a totally legendary civilization, famous for floating cities and epic magic. Lauren stressed over fatal traps, but Lapis casually explained not all ruins were risky. Some were literally just ancient restrooms or random houses. Still, they had to stay super alert. Lauren tossed Lapis on his back and braved the long corridors, desperately hoping to find an exit far away from those nasty goblin-infested cave tunnels. Turning a sharp corner, Lauren sensed someone approaching and instantly gripped his sword. Shockingly, it wasn't a monster at all, just 4 seriously experienced, high-level adventurers. Veteran warrior Ritz led the squad, alongside a sneaky thief named Jack, an incredibly skilled magician named Quartz, and a totally fierce elf archer named Nim. Lauren explained how goblins completely wrecked their original party, leaving them stranded down in these mysterious ruins. The veteran squad felt bad, but admitted they couldn't just escort them out immediately. They were busy fighting a high-stakes race against another party to map these freshly discovered ruins for the Adventurers Guild. In the adventurer world, time is literal money. They just couldn't pause their important mission. As a former mercenary, Lauren totally got it. Nobody works for free, and everyone absolutely must pull their weight. Plus, Lauren seriously lacked the huge cash these elite silver rankers usually charged for help. He assured Ritz they wouldn't be a burden at all. He honestly just wanted quick directions to the nearest, safest exit. Carrying Lapis on his back was tough, so taking a path the pros already cleared of nasty traps would make his life so much easier. Now pay attention. This is hilarious. Ritz looked awkward. Lauren thought he'd need to beg Lapis for cash, but the actual truth was way more embarrassing. Ritz's elite squad was completely lost too. Lauren was baffled. These guys were silver rank pros. How did they not map this place? Lapis sensed Lauren's heavy judgment and shot Ritz a glare that made him sweat intensely. Ritz frantically promised it wasn't their fault. They actually just tumbled right through a trapdoor. Jack, the supposed expert scout, completely missed a pitfall, dropping the entire squad down a floor. The ceiling was insanely high to climb, leaving them hopelessly wandering. Jack tried hiding, but Nim, the fiery archer, was absolutely not having it today. She was furiously kicking and stomping him because he clumsily landed right on top of her during the big drop. Once the chaos finally calmed down, Ritz awkwardly admitted he couldn't help Lauren even if he wanted to. He was completely lost. 2. Despite that rough drop, everyone seemed totally fine. Spotting Lauren's injured shoulder, Ritz cleverly proposed a deal. They were running low on potions and desperately needed Lapis to cast her divine healing magic. Fights got incredibly messy later. In exchange, Lauren and Lapis could totally tag along until finding an exit. Lapis quietly whispered to Lauren that this was a solid win. If the pros carried her, they'd lose a fighter. With Lauren carrying her, the veterans could focus purely on epic combat, while Lauren stayed perfectly safe behind them. Ritz promised he wouldn't just abandon Lauren after getting healed, so they quickly shook on the awesome deal. The 6 of them moved out. Ritz and Jack confidently took the lead. Quartz, the smart magician, stayed right in the middle, while Nim hung back with Lauren and Lapis. Ritz's awesome squad even helped clean and bandage Lauren's shoulder before marching forward. While walking, Jack suddenly mentioned how bizarre these ruins felt. I know what you're thinking. Usually, ancient spots have golems or ghosts, but they only saw goblins. Quartz agreed that made zero logical sense. If these ruins stayed sealed for centuries, those original, fierce guardians should definitely still be here, or at least leave some broken pieces behind. Seeing only weak goblins pop up totally proved they were squeezing in through random wall cracks, exactly like Lauren's party did earlier. Suddenly, Ritz spotted 7 pesky goblins ahead. Lauren tried setting Lapis down for combat, but Nim ordered him back. In literal seconds, the elite silver rankers completely showed off their insane skills. Nim sniped them with absolutely perfect arrows, while Ritz charged fiercely, taking them down with effortless strikes. The battle ended before it seriously even started. Ritz casually collected the ears from the defeated goblins and tossed a heavy sack to Lauren. He kindly explained that since Lauren's first quest was hunting goblins, he could totally trade these in for cash. It meant nothing to wealthy silver rankers, but for a total rookie like Lauren, it was incredibly sweet. They pushed forward, effortlessly clearing more goblin groups along the path. The sack at Lauren's waist grew super heavy, starting to smell absolutely terrible as the nasty monster grime soaked through. Lapis was visibly disgusted, trying her absolute hardest not to breathe through her nose, while clinging tightly to his back. Everything felt perfectly fine until Nim froze abruptly. Her elf senses were just so much sharper. She urgently warned them. The air shifted. She caught a fresh scent ahead, and it definitely wasn't the usual gross goblin stench. It was the scent of humans. The crew snapped on high alert, and trust me, you and I are about to see them face something way worse than stray monsters. Stick with me here. Jack made a silly comment about Lapis and instantly paid for it when Nim kicked him flat on his face. He brushed it off, trying to keep things upbeat, but everyone was completely on edge. Nim's elf senses detected something terrible ahead. Ritz, the leader, decided they would slowly and carefully move forward. While walking, it's noticed Lauren was still carrying Lapis and asked if she felt okay. Lapis claimed her body was just frozen from pure panic, but Ritz was not buying it. He suggested Lauren simply take her back to the church, but Lauren stayed completely quiet. He hardly knew Lapis enough to offer life advice, and he absolutely refused to accidentally expose her massive secret about being a demon. Suddenly, Jack spotted something odd on the ground. Moving closer, they found a set of leather armor completely soaked in red. It was a total wreck, shredded beyond recognition. Lauren realized from the massive damage that whoever wore it was definitely gone forever. The group tried to remember if anyone from the rival party wore leather armor. The guys totally blanked, so Nim called them out for being careless and old. She pulled Lauren aside to get his quick opinion. She noted the armor likely belonged to a female thief from the rival team, a terribly bad sign. Now pay attention. Goblins usually capture women alive. Finding her completely destroyed right there meant either these goblins were strangely different, or something far more terrifying lurked within these ruins. Nim suggested they retreat and restart, but Ritz completely refused. He refused to look like a total coward without proof, like an identification tag showing they failed. Moments later, Lapis tapped Lauren's shoulder, finally able to walk by herself. She thanked him and acted incredibly bubbly, even playfully lying that they were a couple just to totally mess with the entire team. Jack felt happy for him, but Nim instantly silenced him with a swift kick. Ready to fight, they formed a proper line. Ritz and Jack up front, Nim and Quartz in the middle, and Lauren and Lapis watching the back. Lapis seemed strangely excited to explore the ruins, which really started bothering Lauren. He reminded her about the intense danger, so she awkwardly faked being terrified, looking totally forced. She then suggested heading right back to where they first fell. Simple logic. That trap was for catching intruders, meaning a hidden route exists for owners to go down and clear out whoever fell inside. Heading back to the spot, Lapis surprisingly found a hidden control panel. She activated it, and a metal ladder instantly dropped from the ceiling. The veteran adventurers felt super embarrassed they missed it, wasting zero time. Jack climbed up first to check everything, giving the all clear. As everyone else began climbing, Warren quickly pulled Lapis aside. He warned her that once upstairs, Ritz and his squad would likely send them away since they were not officially part of this mission. Lapis, who was completely obsessed with the amazing ruins, just froze in place. She never realized her grand adventure might end instantly. Lauren watched the ladder, realizing Ritz's team was getting absolutely nowhere. I know what you are thinking. To Ritz, ruins meant treasure, but to Lauren, they were fatal traps. However, seeing Lapis incredibly upset about leaving simply made him really want to help. Lapis explained that ancient kingdom ruins follow standard layouts, just like how every adventurer guild looks identical inside, so staff can adapt effortlessly. She figured if she could identify the building's original purpose, navigating it becomes incredibly easy. Lauren realized this smart knowledge was their ultimate golden ticket, deciding to convince Ritz to keep exploring together. The chat was interrupted when Quartz, the elderly mage, struggled heavily on the ladder and fell. Before he could even retry, Jack and Ritz suddenly leaped straight down from upstairs. Looking absolutely horrified, they shouted one word: goblins. A massive swarm. Quartz panicked, lost his top grip, and tumbled down, but Lauren moved with unbelievable speed. Despite his heavy greatsword, he caught the mage perfectly midair. Ritz screamed for everybody to run as goblins started raining through the ceiling hole. Absolute nightmare fuel. The goblins dropped in such insane numbers they used each other as cushions, creating a literal avalanche of green monsters. Lauren took the absolute rear while the group sprinted away. Quartz and Lapis quickly lagged behind. Quartz from old age, and Lapis losing magic in her legs. Without missing a single beat, Lauren scooped both of them under his arms, sprinting forward. His wild strength and endurance were so massive that even veteran pros Ritz and Jack froze. That is where we leave it. Tucked beneath Lauren, they calmly discussed magic like a tea party, deeply annoying him before almost getting completely overrun. When the elf archer Nim also started losing steam, Jack quickly stepped up to carry her. Stick with me here. Lauren knew they couldn't run forever, so he pitched an epic plan to loop back around. His logic was totally brilliant. The goblins could drop down together, but they could only climb back up that narrow ladder one by one. This would perfectly bottleneck their numbers, giving our human heroes a fighting chance. They reached the hatch, finding the monster wave had finally paused. Jack and Nim scrambled up first. Quartz used his final drop of mana to blast a massive firestorm, instantly raising a thick earth wall behind it. While Lapis and Quartz climbed up safely, Ritz slowly struggled on the ladder. Lauren fiercely held his ground below, watching that thick earth wall crack. These beasts weren't acting normal at all. They are usually total cowards, but these guys were throwing themselves right into the fire with zero regard for their own safety. The wall finally shattered. Lauren didn't flinch. He reached back, unwrapped the thick cloth from his massive greatsword, and gripped the hilt tightly. As the first wave of screaming creatures rushed through the dust, Lauren boldly stepped forward to clash. The wall didn't totally collapse, but that gap was plenty big enough for those monsters to pour in. Lauren stepped up to buy precious time, swinging his huge blade and taking down several monsters at once. But as he fought, he noticed something super strange. The floor was completely clean. Even though he dropped so many enemies, their forms were mysteriously disappearing. Watch closely now. He knew goblins were scavengers, but dragging their fallen away mid-fight and leaving zero trace. That was seriously creepy to witness. Lauren kept swinging hard, his heavy blade easily smashing through their super cheap shields and weapons. He shouted up to Ritz, a silver rank adventurer, who was still heavily struggling to climb. Ritz was moving way too slowly, and Lauren was quickly getting surrounded on all sides. To make matters even worse, Lapis, the cheerful young priestess up top, yelled down that more monsters were appearing on the upper floor. The team was completely trapped and squeezed from both sides. Lauren noticed that totally weird behavior again. Every single time he defeated one, the others dropped their weapons and scrambled for the fallen, completely ignoring him for a second. He smartly used this to his advantage, taking out specific targets to keep them playing cleanup. Finally, Ritz safely reached the top, but the news from up above was terrible. Jack, the group scout, was heavily injured, and Nim the archer was in deep trouble. Lauren didn't hesitate. He put his entire body weight into one epic spinning strike, turning the surrounding creatures into a flying mess of red mist. Using that tiny opening, he bolted up the ladder, smashing the rungs behind him so nothing could follow. Up on the second floor, things looked incredibly grim. Jack had a huge head wound, and Nim was currently being pinned down by something that seriously did not look like a normal goblin. You see it too, right? These new monsters were huge, dark, and insanely strong. Quartz, the wise elderly mage, had managed to blast one with magic, but now he was completely out of energy. Lauren fiercely rushed the monster, pinning Nim, and kicked it hard, but it barely flinched. He tried slashing its neck, but its thick skin was literally like armor. His heavy sword actually got stuck in muscle. Nim managed to stab the creature right in the eye, giving Lauren the perfect chance to swing with everything he had, finally taking it down. Nearby, Ritz was violently grabbed by another super goblin. The beast was literally crushing Ritz's head with its bare hands, his bones starting to loudly creak. Lauren bravely charged from behind and completely obliterated the beast before it could pop Ritz's head like a grape. With that immediate danger over, the group took a quick second to breathe. Jack was alive, but super dizzy, and Nim was visibly shaken. Lapis stared at the dark fallen creatures and realized something terrifying. She carefully explained that during the Ancient Kingdom era, people used these creatures as wild test subjects because they multiply fast and eat literally anything, including garbage and the fallen. This creepy ruin wasn't just some random cave. It was a biological laboratory. These dark monsters weren't natural at all. They were specially engineered versions. But as the group quickly started moving to escape, two more beasts suddenly jumped out from a corner. Before Lauren could even lift his heavy sword, Lapis reached out and casually snapped both their necks with her bare hands. She neatly wiped her hands with the scented cloth, like she just touched something dusty, not even breaking her confident stride. Lauren was totally stunned by her strength, realizing that while she looked like a simple priestess, Lapis was hiding some truly insane power. He stayed totally quiet to avoid making the rest of the team suspicious. As they bravely pushed deeper into the dark ruins to finally end this nightmare, Lapis explained this facility wasn't just some normal monster nest. It was an ancient lab specifically designed to biologically boost them. So what do we make of this? These creatures were genetically boosted, kept simple to control, but given insane power. Trust me, you'll want to see what happens next. Alright, stick with me here. This exactly explains why the team spotted 0 evolved mages inside. But suddenly, Once a goblin breaks past the ruins, dampening feel, just like that earlier fight, it instantly transforms into a high-tier monster thanks to its totally massive base stats. Things were way more messed up than expected. While typical goblins snatch people to multiply, these lab-grown freaks were entirely machine-bred and needed zero conventional methods. Still, that shadow goblin went straight after Nim. Lapis made it perfectly clear that this was absolutely not monster instinct. It was purely a human action. She figured out these nasty creatures were absorbing human traits. Probably by absorbing that exact rival adventuring squad that completely vanished earlier. These freaks were not simply powerful. They were literally gaining human smarts and learning from every single battle. Lapis warned them flat out, fail to close this lab, and it creates monsters tougher than dragons. Lauren had a wrecked sword from the last clash, and Ritz's crew was barely hanging on. Jack took heavy hits, and Quartz had zero mana. Ritz totally debated falling back for high-tier backup, but Lapis coldly reminded him that if they waited for gold-rank heroes, everyone would already be finished. Out of options, the crew stuck together to hunt down the control center. Lapis guided them right through the ancient researcher dorms, literally snatching up random loot along the way, even though she seriously introduced herself as a holy cleric of knowledge. Her insane skill at reading ancient text and exploring ruins felt super sketchy. She snagged a pristine manual. Now, watch closely. Things are about to get completely wild. They rushed the main room, while Ritz seriously stressed over navigating this brutal dungeon. Alongside such a heavily battered and exhausted squad, Lauren realized Lapis could practically read his mind, though she playfully teased that he simply broadcasted all his feelings right on his face. Hitting a huge set of giant handleless doors, Lapis smoothly traced a bright, glowing, magical pattern straight onto the metal using that ancient guidebook. The heavy doors glided open without a sound, exposing the absolute core. They stepped into a freezing chamber totally packed with bizarre rune-covered machines. Lapis, our totally mysterious cleric, marched right up to the main terminal, loudly declaring she could power down this entire nightmare. But once she started tapping, the display glowed red. The machine completely locked her out. This crazy lab featured serious security protocols, meaning only officially registered ancient scientists could operate it. Because Lapis lacked clearance, the ancient system labeled them as hostiles. Everything immediately spiraled out of control. Lapis casually mentioned the security grid just triggered an automated defense protocol to wipe them out, making things completely terrifying. This system literally learned mid-combat. Every single time a monster dropped, the computer gathered combat data to forge the upcoming wave significantly smarter and intensely powerful. Almost instantly, those basic brutes swapped out for tactical units that perfectly handled heavy shields and blades. The chamber erupted into absolute chaotic madness. Veteran fighters Ritz and Jack struggled badly as enemy formations grew way too organized. Even their sharp elf archer Nim was burning through ammo. Then massive elite variants, extremely durable upgrades of the beasts, entered the fray. A giant brute smirked at Lauren. I know what you are thinking, huge mistake. That incredibly smug look absolutely flipped a switch inside him. Pure adrenaline flooded his mind, and he dropped all his limits. Forgetting completely about protecting himself or shattering his blade, he entered pure beast mode. He punted the giant backwards, unleashing a massive barrage of strikes so insanely fast they whipped up an actual hurricane right around his body. His heavy greatsword vanished into motion. He shattered the thick wooden club, ripping straight through the enemy frontline like an unstoppable, raging tornado. The absolute raw power of his swings reduced everything unfortunate enough to step near him into completely shattered monster pieces. Ritz and Jack stood completely frozen by this epic display of destructive power, and nervously stepped back, realizing they were practically useless right now. Lauren literally became a one-man army, obliterating every single creature daring to enter those doors. He cleared that entire room like an absolute force. The elite silver rank squad watched in pure disbelief as this supposedly low-level copper rookie effortlessly dominated the entire horde. Crazy theories instantly sparked up. Was Lauren secretly that legendary wandering mercenary famous for surviving completely impossible wars? Even finding it completely insane that a legendary warrior posed as a copper rookie. Nobody could deny he was the single reason they kept breathing. But the sharp archer Nim spotted a massive issue. Her elf ears caught a terrifying cracking noise from his blade. And Lauren totally felt it. He pushed his physical limits way past the brink, burning a hidden energy that always left his entire body paralyzed. He crushed the giant boss, but his huge sword snapped. We absolutely must see what happens next. Stick with me here. Fighting with only half a blade, Lauren desperately struggled to hold the monster swarm back while Lapis wildly hacked the ancient control panel to stop their crazy production. The entire system completely jammed, and Ritz's heavy attempts to smash the panel failed because a glowing magic shield protected it. Lauren had one incredibly wild idea, pulling out a glowing magical pendant taken from a monster mage earlier. He bravely threw it right at the panel, loudly shouting for it to activate. That magical pendant released a massive burst of energy, completely neutralizing the shield. Lauren then forcefully hurled his broken, heavy sword with absolutely everything he had. The huge blade jammed deep into the machinery, sparking a massive, total shutdown. Those monsters instantly went completely limp, dropping like puppets with their strings abruptly cut. Lauren's vision sadly faded, and he collapsed. Exactly 3 days later, Lauren finally woke up in a sunny hospital inside Kaffa City. Lapis patiently sat by his bed, super relieved to see him awake. She cheerfully explained that his epic final move completely worked. The ruins were permanently disabled, ending the monster threat forever. While Ritz's party was completely safe, the grand mission was technically a major failure. Here's where it gets absolutely crazy for us. With their leader randomly gone, and those precious proof tokens lost forever, there was literally zero reward money. Lauren heavily felt his terrible new situation. He was totally broke, exhausted, and now deeply owed Lapis for his massive medical bills and carriage travel. Seeing his intense stress, Lapis warmly offered an awesome deal. She would fully pay his debts without any interest, but in exchange, he absolutely must stay permanently partnered. Honestly, Lapis had her own secret, hiding perfectly as a cheerful priestess. This clever demon girl actually needed an incredibly strong, reliable partner to safely navigate the human world without facing unfair harassment or terrible exploitation. Lauren, having literally zero other choices and trusting her completely despite those hidden secrets, happily agreed. Back at the super bustling Adventurers' Guild, Lauren sat drinking, quietly pondering the surprisingly harsh reality of his completely new life. His famous mercenary days were totally over, but his struggling adventurer life was beginning. Just as he sank deeply into his thoughts, Lapis happily approached him with her delightfully cheerful energy, totally ready for their next job. Lauren, an incredibly strong former mercenary whose powerful squad sadly vanished, was now broke and somehow surviving as a bottom-rank adventurer. He was currently trapped in massive, ridiculous debt, thanks directly to Lapis, a super pretty but hilariously blunt priestess who paid his huge hospital bills and basically became his strict new boss. While relaxing in a busy bar, Lapis playfully reminded him that every drink and bite she bought was just being added straight to his huge tab. Since Lauren lost his awesome, massive signature sword in his last fight, he was literally stuck without a cool weapon. To make matters hilariously worse, he accidentally smashed a table and solidly punched an annoying iron rank adventurer into a stone wall, which added even more expensive repair costs to his debt. With literally no sword and a mountain of bills, Lauren and Lapis traveled to a nearby magical forest for a low-level herb-gathering quest. It was incredibly boring work, and Lapis constantly kept pointing out how many plants he missed. She seriously told him that most beginner, low-level adventurers absolutely drown in debt unless they take huge risks or get incredibly lucky. Watch closely. You and I are about to see his epic instincts activate. Smelling dangerous beasts and hearing a loud growl, they eagerly followed the noise, discovering an unconscious young girl in a pretty white dress, completely surrounded by a hungry forest wolf pack. These wolves weren't huge, but they were super fast and hunted in packs, creating an absolute nightmare for completely unarmed fighters. Even though completely empty-handed, Lauren bravely did not hesitate. He boldly told Lapis they were saving the girl, and confidently charged right in. When the first wolf suddenly lunged from a tall tree, Lauren needed absolutely no blade. He perfectly timed a heavy punch, smashing the wolf's face and sending it wildly spinning into a trunk. More wolves jumped out from the shadows, aggressively snapping their jaws. Lauren moved like a true pro, using his raw strength to effortlessly swat them away while carefully watching the girl. Lapis calmly stayed back, safely holding their bags, perfectly ready to assist. Lauren absolutely knew he had to finish this fast before the huge pack could swarm him, since even a legendary mercenary's fists could only do so much against a dozen hungry predators. Lauren moved swiftly. He instantly knocked out one wild wolf, forcefully smashed another's heavy head right into the dirt, and when a third wildly tried to bite his thick boots, he grabbed it and slammed it into a tree, totally besting it. The last one tried sneaking past him to safely attack Lapis, but Lauren caught it by the tail and knocked it completely out in one beautifully smooth motion. The remaining pack quickly realized they were completely outmatched and cowardly backed off, watching him incredibly warily. Lapis mentioned that while the meat was bad, their fur was totally worth money. However, since they lacked a knife or a way to carry 4 heavy beasts while gathering herbs, Lauren firmly decided to leave them behind. As they bravely stepped forward, the terrified remaining wolves finally fled. Lauren didn't bother chasing them. He just waited to make completely sure they were gone before finally checking on the mysterious girl they found. She looked about 10 years old. Lauren suspected a trap, but you and I know nobody would ever use a sweet child as bait here. He bravely stood guard while Lapis checked her over. Stick with me here. Lapis realized this girl was insanely lucky, not just for being found, but because those wolves completely ignored her. They definitely couldn't leave her alone, so Lauren scooped her up and headed back. He noticed she was super light, totally healthy, with flawless skin and incredibly fancy clothes. Bizarrely, she was barefoot, but her feet were perfectly clean with 0 cuts, making absolutely no sense for wandering a forest. Back in the city, they hit the Adventurers Guild. Staff recognized her instantly, turned super serious, and totally rushed her away. A receptionist quickly pulled Lauren and Lapis right aside. She warned them they couldn't leave the city for a few days during the investigation. To keep them quiet, the guild offered a luxury inn with all expenses paid, including food. But Lauren found this deal super suspicious. Usually, things that sound too good are fake, but Lapis easily convinced him to enjoy it. After 2 solid days living the high life on the guild's dime, they got summoned. The receptionist smiled, telling them they were completely cleared of suspicion and free to go. When Lapis demanded details, the receptionist totally shut her down. That info was strictly top secret, reserved only for high-ranking adventurers. Lapis was furious, but Lauren played it completely cool. Arguing was useless since the staff would never break guild rules. Instead, he dragged Lapis outside, planning to hunt for clues elsewhere. He figured since the guild briefed high-ranked adventurers, they just needed to find one of those elites who was actually willing to talk. After checking a few local bars, they headed straight into a dim tavern on town's edge. Pay attention here. Lauren spots a familiar face in the shadows, totally ready for the real story. They found Jack, a silver-ranked thief from a previous job, just chilling. He insisted on buying drinks to repay a favor, but Lauren jumped straight to business. He explained finding the girl in the woods, and immediately asked if Jack knew anything. Jack hesitated, since leaking job details is a massive rule breaker, but because Lauren once saved his teammate Nim from a goblin, he decided to help. He made them swear to keep his name secret, then finally dropped the massive details. The girl is Shayna LeBoltier. She is the only daughter of the leader of Hansa, a nearby city-state. Even though it is a tiny place, she is an absolute VIP. Jack explained the guild stayed quiet to avoid crazy rumors about a noble girl stranded totally alone. The reason our duo got no reward yet? Nobody officially requested a rescue. The guild is still nervously waiting for a messenger to confirm her identity. However, that important messenger likely went completely missing. So, the guild plans to hire iron rank adventurers to safely escort her back home. You and I both know Lapis wanted in. Sadly, they were just copper rank. But guess what? There is a loophole. If a silver rank adventurer recommends them, they can snatch higher level jobs. Jack offered to ask his party leader, Ritz, to help them out. There was just one huge problem. Lauren had no weapon, since his old one completely shattered. Lapis pressured Lauren into agreeing, promising she would totally secure the gear money by tomorrow. After Lapis left for the cash, Jack got totally trashed. He spent all night drunkenly rambling to Lauren about how deeply he loves Nim, his elf teammate. The next morning, Lauren woke up with an absolutely massive headache at the bar. With Jack passed out cold, Lapis showed up. She already moved their stuff to a new inn, and was totally hyped for shopping. Just then, Nim walked right in, found Jack, and delivered a solid kick to his back for staying out. She wasn't mad at Lauren though. Calling him a good boy, she kindly paid the huge tab since Jack was just helping out his juniors. With the tab cleared and their recommendations secured, Lauren and Lapis headed straight for the shopping district. Lauren was quietly stressing about his debt and finding a sword massive enough for his fighting style. But Lapis looked completely confident as they marched off to find him some fresh steel. Lapis led him to a pre-scouted shop. She explained that without proper armor and a reliable weapon, an adventurer simply cannot survive. Lauren's old mercenary gear was literally falling apart. Unable to fix it himself, he finally agreed it was upgrade time. Lapis quickly picked out a super stylish, long black coat. It looked basic, but it was actually a high-end magic item. Made from special spider silk, it offered protection and even healed itself. The shop priced it at just 5 gold coins. Lapis realized this was an absolute steal, as it should cost 10 times that amount. Trust me, you'd make him buy it instantly before the owner noticed too. Stick with me here. While Lapis steps back with the owner to hunt down a heavy weapon, Lauren browses around. He spots a stunning decorated sword, but before his fingers even brush it, some rude red-haired kid swipes it. This guy starts throwing insults, calling Lauren a total musclehead, telling him to remember his place as low-rank trash. Lauren keeps his cool, letting the kid buy it and leave. Soon Lapis returns, dragging an absolutely massive package behind her. She pops it open, and wow, Lauren is instantly blown away. Shopping trip complete, but Lauren now owes Lapis 24 gold coins. That completely covers his shiny new armor, a magic coat, that giant weapon, and extra supplies. Next morning, they hit the guild for a fresh mission, escorting a young girl named Shayna right back to her city. Around 20 other adventurers are waiting. They are all iron rank, totally outclassing Lauren's simple copper status. Oh, and that red-haired brat from yesterday? He is here too, loudly whining that Lauren and Lapis should get completely kicked out. Staff explain they have a special recommendation, but this kid keeps acting like a total jerk, telling Lauren to just back off and stay away. Now watch closely. Things get super tense when another guy whines about Lauren getting the exact same pay as higher ranks. He gets aggressive, reaching for Lapis, but Lauren instantly grabs his wrist. Lauren squeezes so hard, you can literally hear the guy's bones completely cracking. The fool draws a knife, so Lauren casually tosses him across the room into a wall. Seeing his crazy, dangerous strength, the other adventurers finally shut their mouths and stop talking trash. Finally, the guild staff explain the mission details. Several messengers have already vanished on the road to Shayna's town, meaning this trip spells pure, unpredictable danger. Despite the massive risks, they set out in carriages. Lauren is incredibly glad he avoids walking while carrying his giant new weapon, even though his sheer weight literally tilts the carriage sideways. As the journey begins, everyone stays highly alert, knowing whatever took out those last messengers is definitely still lurking out there. The guild packed 23 adventurers tightly across just 2 small carriages. Being lower rank, Lauren and Lapis easily annoy the older veterans who absolutely hate sharing their super cramped space with them. Our ex-mercenary Lauren just wants peace and offers them a sincere apology. The older pros accept it, but Klaus, that red-haired brat, jumps over from the other carriage just to talk endless trash. He aggressively mocks Lauren for his rank and causing drama, but an older veteran named Bro tells the kid to shut up and scram. As Klaus gets dragged away by his team, Lauren quickly checks out his party. A blonde knight named Ela, a skilled magician named N, and priestess Ro. Lapis, who somehow knows everything, explains Klaus, is a rising star backed by the guild itself. She also introduces Bro, a 20-year veteran who remains surprisingly chill despite his rough exterior. You and I both know things get weird fast. Stopping to camp for the night, Lauren suddenly notices the driver of Shayna's specific carriage acting incredibly strange. The young girl they are escorting looks completely pale and sick. Bro helps the man down, but the situation inside that carriage is somehow even worse. Lapis peeks inside and frantically calls Lauren over in panic. Every single female adventurer inside is totally unconscious, drenched in cold sweat, and looking like they are completely fading away. Lauren starts carrying the women out, realizing their bodies are ice cold, exactly like the fallen soldiers he had seen back on the battlefields. Lapis examines them and bluntly announces that 2 are already gone. This instantly sends a massive shockwave through the camp. Bro takes charge, but Lapis drops an even bigger bombshell. The fallen girls are already starting to mutate into terrifying undead monsters. She furiously insists they burn the bodies immediately. Klaus tries to argue, but his own priestess Ro confirms that a sinister dark energy is indeed taking them over. Having absolutely no choice, they burn the remains far away from the camp. The atmosphere turns incredibly heavy. Everyone starts avoiding Shayna, the 10-year-old client, treating her like she is cursed since everyone around her collapses or vanishes. Seeing the little girl sitting all alone and terrified, Lauren feels incredibly bad. He kindly invites her to eat with him and Lapis, but Klaus, being a jerk as usual, starts screaming that Lauren is just sucking up for a much bigger reward. Lauren is about to throw a log to shut him up, but Lapis beats him to it, hurling solid firewood right into Klaus's face, and instantly knocking him flat. With the loudmouth silenced, Lauren brings Shayna over to their fire, trying his best to give her some safety while this entire escort mission rapidly turns into an absolute nightmare. Lauren pats Shayna's head to calm her down, deciding it is much better not to ask what the knight had actually seen earlier. The next morning, a brand new problem pops up. Her previous escorts are absolutely terrified after losing 2 friends to this curse. The 5 survivors who mysteriously passed out completely refuse to ride with her again. So what do you and I make of this wild mystery? They felt terrified they might be the next victims. Stick with me here. The leader was stuck. They could not leave their 10-year-old client alone, but he flat out refused to ride with her. That is when Lapis stepped right up, suggesting she and Lauren handle this job. She noted they spent all night near Shayna's tent, feeling completely fine. Lauren hated seeing the young girl lonely or afraid, so he quickly agreed to help. They set off toward the town of Hansa, with Lauren sitting right up front near the driver, keeping watch. Everyone felt incredibly anxious because the guild messengers vanished completely. In this exact area just yesterday, to keep Shayna calm, Lapis playfully joked about Lauren being a legendary mercenary. Lauren brushed it off entirely, staying super focused on the road. By noon, everything felt way too quiet. Suddenly, they spotted around 10 mysterious figures standing right in the road. They looked like totally normal townsfolk, which was super weird, since they were in the middle of nowhere. When some adventurers told them to move, these figures turned around, revealing unhinged jaws and terrifying claw-like fingers. Ro, their priestess, shouted a warning about undead. Klaus, a cocky but insanely talented adventurer, did not wait. He charged forward with Ela the knight, and the magician, and Ro. These definitely were not weak zombies. Now pay attention. These were revenants, much stronger, faster, and smarter. Lauren watched closely to see Klaus's true skills. Klaus looked absolutely impressive, slicing through monsters with pure ease. Finishing the last one, Klaus suddenly glowed, moving so incredibly fast he practically vanished, slicing the revenant in half instantly. His teammates scolded him for showing off such rare moves, but bro stood stunned. Lapis explained Klaus possessed a special gift called divine speed. This was not just magic, it was an incredibly rare power, boosting his body and weapons to extreme levels. The exact kind of power usually found within legendary heroes. Lauren realized, despite the annoying attitude, Klaus was the real deal. Still, Lauren kept his guard high, sensing these revenants were merely distractions for something much worse lurking nearby. Lauren just sighed, realizing this talented but incredibly arrogant adventurer genuinely hated him. Despite Klaus's epic skills and rumored government backing, Lauren simply did not care. He figured they would never cross paths after this job. However, instead of walking away, Lauren headed toward the battlefield. He could not just leave those fallen victims lying there. So, he and his partner Lapis, a priestess holding big secrets, began burying them. After the respectful burial, everyone quickly pushed forward. They found wallets and jewelry, proving these victims were just regular local people. The mood felt extremely heavy, getting way worse when their caravan driver suddenly collapsed completely lifeless for no apparent reason. You saw that coming, right? When Lauren checked, the man fell, already turning right into an undead monster. They had to burn his remains right there. Lapis immediately took over the driving. Moving ahead, she used her amazing artificial eyes, spotting things Lauren completely missed. She warned dozens of undead roamed in broad daylight, meaning something super powerful nearby was definitely creating them. As night fell, this whole situation turned absolutely nightmarish. Zombies and stronger undead called revenants completely swarmed their camp from all sides. Exhausted adventurers were getting taken down. Lauren finally stepped up to the plate, fully unwrapping his massive new black greatsword. With just a few heavy swings, he totally smashed through the monsters, turning them into absolute dust. He met up with veteran Broas and Klaus's party, the only ones still standing. They smartly decided to make a run for Hansa City, since it was much closer than turning back. Just as they were about to escape, the ground violently shook. A massive bone dragon erupted from the earth, snatching in the magician right into its jaws. Klaus totally panicked, but Lauren knew they had to act fast. He told Lapis to distract it. She used a blinding light spell, stunning the dragon, and Lauren quickly rushed in. He slammed his giant sword into the dragon's head with incredible force. The monster stumbled and instantly dropped in. Lauren caught her, diving into the moving caravan while Lapis whipped the horse to escape. The bone dragon roared furiously, starting a wild chase, even without skin on its skeletal wings. Lapis loudly warned it was much faster than their horse and would catch up soon. Inside the bumpy caravan, and was coughing intensely from her critical injuries. Klaus started yelling at Lapis to drive carefully, but Bro fiercely grabbed him, telling him to shut up, since they were incredibly lucky to be breathing. This group faced a desperate race against time. That massive bone dragon stayed right on their tail, and Porin remained in terrible shape. She kept coughing heavily, and every single road bump made her severe internal injuries so much worse. Bro, another group member, was totally convinced they were all going to perish if they slowed down, even 1 inch. Trust me, we are in for a ride. Knowing they could never win directly, Lauren told Ro to use magic to heal and immediately. Let's jump right into the action. Klaus hesitated about using their magic early, but Lauren totally shut him down. If that terrifying dragon caught them, nothing else would matter anyway. While the healing was happening, Lauren quickly checked on Lapis. She was driving their caravan blazing fast, straight through total darkness. Even in pitch blackness, Lapis could see things absolutely perfectly. When Lauren asked how, she just joked about her amazing night vision. To gain more speed, Lapis literally grabbed Klaus right by his collar. She literally tossed Klaus onto the horse's back and ordered him to use his boost magic to make it ride even faster. To keep him fully focused, she whipped him whenever he slowed down. Rough night for Klaus, but hey, it totally worked. Lapis mentioned that bone dragons hate sunlight, so they just had to survive until morning came. When the sun finally rose, the monster vanished. But inside their caravan, it was an absolute chaotic mess. Lauren woke up to find that while Anne was stable, her brother suddenly got seriously ill for no clear reason. Even weirder, Ela and Rose soon collapsed too. Only Lauren, Lapis, and Shayna, the sweet girl they protected, were still standing tall. They finally reached Shayna's beautiful home city of Hansa, but something felt super wrong. The massive city gates were swung wide open, and there wasn't a single guard in sight. Usually, a huge place like this would be buzzing with people, but it was totally silent. As they drove through the quiet streets, everything looked incredibly clean. Pay attention here. Zero signs of struggle. No red stains. No broken windows. Just a completely empty ghost town. Lapis kept her cool, even playfully joking about how romantic it was to be alone in a city with Lauren, while Klaus was actually still twitching on the horse's back from a night of whipping. Shayna pointed them toward a local clinic. She remembered. With 4 teammates completely unconscious and fading fast in the wagon, our heroes really didn't have any other choice left. They headed deeper into the eerily perfect empty city, really hoping to find a skilled doctor or some answers before it was too late. Shayna explained that this was the only hospital she knew, since her father, the state president, brought her here specifically to see a highly skilled doctor. Lauren found it a bit weird that a powerful leader would choose a small clinic over a state-run hospital, but Lapis completely agreed with the choice. She felt way safer staying away from large government buildings, since they still didn't know why. The city was empty. While Lapis parked the caravan, Klaus finally woke up. He was totally exhausted from taking heavy hits during their escape from the dragon, but Lapis didn't give him any credit, reminding him that Lauren was the one who actually saved his teammate. Feeling super awkward, Klaus quietly thanked Lauren before helping move all their injured friends inside. Inside the clean clinic, they found plenty of great medicine and cozy beds. Lapis quickly took charge of medical care, kicking the men out. She had to strip the patients down just to treat their awful wounds. She sent Klaus to guard the entrance and asked Lauren to take Shayna for a walk to scout the area, mostly keeping the young girl far away from the sight of injured people being undressed. Lauren and Shayna explored the nearby quiet shopping district. You feel the spooky suspense building, right? Shops were packed with food and valuables. Houses had half-eaten meals on tables. But there were no people and no signs of a struggle. It was literally like everyone just vanished into thin air. Lauren estimated nearly 50,000 people were simply missing. He knew that if he ever made it back to the guild to report this, no one would believe an entire city could just disappear without a single clue being left behind. During their walk, they spotted a woman hiding behind a building. Her name was Shootle, and she was a completely terrified survivor who had been hiding inside her basement for several days. She couldn't explain what happened, only that people started acting crazy before completely disappearing. She recognized Shayna as the state president's daughter, and quickly suggested they head to the central mansion, where city guards were likely stationed. Behind strong walls, Lauren safely brought Shootle back to the clinic to meet the others. Lapis reported that while the others would be perfectly okay after resting, Anne was in really bad shape. Her organs were damaged and she had lost too much vital energy to be moved immediately. They decided to camp at the clinic overnight and move toward the mansion the next morning. Once everyone stabilized, Lapis was strangely strict with Shootle, firmly refusing her help and ordering her and Shayna to stay in separate rooms. While Lapis managed all the patients, Lauren found a portable furnace from a nearby blacksmith shop. He set it up outside to cook a meal for the group, using the magic tool to carefully control the heat. As he sat there working over the flames, Lapis walked out to quickly check on him, curious about what he was making. Lauren stayed focused on the furnace, ignoring Lapis as he melted down shiny silver coins and jewelry. "Trust me on this one," He wasn't being a blacksmith for fun. He knew their weapons wouldn't be nearly enough against the growing monster threat. Using sharp mercenary instincts, stick with me, he forged silver knives, knowing they were the best way to smash monsters that normal steel simply couldn't touch. While Lauren geared up, Lapis explained she had safely locked the two survivors, Shayna and Shoodle, into completely separate rooms. She strongly suspected something was seriously wrong with them both. She revealed their mysterious illness was actually an energy drain, a shady power used by elite monsters to steal the spark right out of people. Even though Shayna looked totally fine, Lapis didn't trust her and had already placed powerful protective spells everywhere. Lauren realized Lapis had been quietly guarding him too, which was exactly why he hadn't collapsed like everyone else. When she tried acting like helping was just dirty demon work, Lauren firmly stopped her. He told her straight up that she was his heroic partner and to finally stop hiding secrets. That sweet moment was ruined by a massive roar echoing through the night. The creepers were coming. As darkness dropped, the entire city crawled with phantoms and creepers. Lauren cleverly guessed they used the sewers to avoid the sun. He and Klaus bravely stood their ground outside the clinic, behind a messy rubble barricade. Klaus used his gift to glow incredibly bright, acting like a magnet for every monster. While Klaus fought off the main horde, Lauren used those silver knives to snipe monsters from a distance. The epic battle quickly became a completely messy grind. Lauren finally stepped right up with his massive black greatsword, swinging it hard enough to completely shatter groups of creepers instantly. Poor Klaus ended up totally covered in gross monster slime, but their wild plan worked. Between Klaus's incredibly flashy powers, Lauren's heavy hits, and Lapis's beautiful holy spells, they easily managed to keep the clinic from being overrun. Lauren kept the ground perfectly clear of fallen enemies so absolutely nobody would trip, knowing one tiny mistake could mean instant game over. While Lauren focused on clearing those creepers out, a massive explosion rocked the clinic. Now watch this. A figure stepped from the smoke carrying Shayna. Shoodle simply wasn't human anymore. Thick yellow mist poured right from her body, and while she looked normal, her eyes glowed completely mysteriously. Lauren and Lapis realized their defensive ritual only kept monsters out. It couldn't stop something breaking from the inside. Shoodle White, a smart and incredibly powerful fallen creature, totally ignored the surrounding creepers. She loudly announced she was finishing her master's task before calmly walking away into the darkness. Lapis warned this yellow mist was an energy drain that would eventually take down anyone ordinary. While she and Klaus were safe behind magic gifts, Lauren was only holding on thanks to his insane natural resistance and the ritual's lingering awesome power. They couldn't stay in that mist. They decided to chase Shoodle, save cheerful Shayna, and stop this mysterious ritual. However, leaving meant the clinic was completely defenseless. Surprisingly, the strong Klaus stepped up. He promised to boldly hold the line alone, protecting his injured friends until the sunrise. He playfully joked about his dream of surviving to build a big family, making Lauren almost sigh. But they fully trusted this decisive hero to definitely make it through tonight. Lauren and Lapis sprinted through the pitch-black city streets. Lauren's mercenary training helped him move effortlessly in the dark, slicing through creepers, jumping from the deep shadows. Lapis explained that even if they defeated Shoodle, the city was already a total disaster zone with monsters everywhere. Worse, she feared the treasure. Shayna might actually summon something far more dangerous than a white. As the monster numbers spiked rapidly near the city center, Lapis realized something huge. With the city entirely empty of survivors and Klaus far away, there were absolutely zero witnesses around to watch them. I know what you're thinking. She turned to Lauren, seriously suggesting that with nobody watching, she could finally unleash her true, magnificent power. Lauren tried talking Lapis out of using those powers, but a massive, dramatic tremor interrupted him. He had previously joked they'd only need her full strength if a bone dragon appeared, and naturally, one instantly burst through the shattered ground. Realizing his big mouth totally jinxed them, Lauren watched as Lapis's entire vibe dramatically changed. Her cheerful expression turned super sharp and fierce against the beast. She raised her palm, chanting an epic spell that turned everything perfectly crimson. The glowing light blinded Lauren, erasing all sound and sight entirely. When the intense flash finally faded, the sheer destruction was truly unbelievable. That bone dragon, the surrounding monsters, and even the stone streets and buildings simply vanished, leaving behind nothing but a massive hollow crater. Lapis casually mentioned she had actually held back because her prosthetic eyes ruined her range control, leaving Lauren seriously wondering how incredibly dangerous she'd be at her absolute maximum strength. So what do we make of this? Crossing the empty crater, the air completely changed. They finally reached the president's mansion, which mysteriously looked way more like a fortified, glorious castle. Let's dive right into this wild mystery together. In the courtyard, they found young Shayna resting on a stone altar, while the cursed woman Shootle loomed over her in dark robes. Lauren tried taunting the villain, calling out her messed up actions toward a kid. But Shootle was completely obsessed with her master's dark, twisted project. Playing it smart, Lapis totally tricked Shootle into spilling everything. Shootle revealed her master forged a legendary jewel of eternal life to grant endless time. Most people crumbled or turned into cursed monsters like her. But Shayna had the incredibly rare talent to actually host its power. The truth was terrifying. The cursed jewel had been draining energy from everyone in the city to fuel Shayna's massive transformation. Shayna desperately tried rejecting this power, which accidentally triggered a wild teleportation spell, sending her deep into the exact forest where Lauren first found her. But now, the dark ritual completed. A blinding white flash erupted from Shayna's chest, unleashing a massive chill so cold it literally made Lauren's heart feel like ice was piercing through it. Shayna's body floated high above the altar, her bright hair dulling and skin turning pale as eerie white mist began pouring straight out from her. Shootle cheered with pure joy, claiming they were witnessing the legendary birth of a no-life king, the true ruler of shadows. Now watch closely here. Lapis backed away, realizing disaster was officially striking. While Shootle celebrated her master's epic success, Lapis noted that even with this beast born, Shuttle's plan still had one massive flaw. Shane, now the overpowered no-life king, floated in a complete daze. Lapis realized the villain who summoned her had just messed up incredibly big time. Shootle believed she could easily control a no-life king, since she was cursed too, but Lapis called her an idiot. A no-life king is the absolute top-tier ruler of shadows. It definitely doesn't take basic orders from a low-level minion. Suddenly, Shayna glared at Shootle. Intense white flames erupted, instantly draining Shuttle's magic and turning her into a mindless husk. Lauren quickly realized he had to battle Shayna, even though she still looked exactly like his young friend. Lapis loudly warned him that this monstrous beast possessed heavy magic shields and a massive aura that drained energy from absolutely anyone standing nearby. The cursed Shootle suddenly attacked, but Lauren easily struck her down, drawing Shayna's attention. She started aggressively blasting white flames at Lauren. He swiftly zigzagged around, unable to approach. Lapis cast a holy spell to erase the monster, but it totally failed. She then blasted fireballs at Shayna's face, which honestly didn't leave a single scratch. Shayna locked onto Lapis, giving Lauren the perfect opening he needed. He charged fast, but Shayna was surprisingly quicker, dodging his massive sword and blasting Lapis with intense flames. Lapis survived the brutal hit, proving she was incredibly tough. I know you're seeing what she saw. Lapis spotted that glowing jewel fueling Shayna's insane power, and told Lauren to strike. Shayna wildly screeched, making Lauren's entire body feel incredibly sluggish. As the draining energy field grew stronger, knowing time was almost up, Lauren boldly pushed way past his limits. Moving with absolute insane speed, his black sword glowed brilliantly, completely cracking Shayna's magic barrier. Lauren then totally faked being exhausted, hiding right behind his huge sword to trick her. When Shayna confidently stepped in for victory, Lauren leapt off his sword, kicked her chest, and followed with a massive, heavy punch. While she staggered back, he swung his greatsword with everything, totally shattering that glowing jewel. The monster's power vanished, and Shayna's true mind returned. But without that magical jewel, her body slowly started crumbling into gentle white ash. Lapis sadly explained the forbidden spell used on her was completely unstable. There was simply no way to save her. Shayna looked at Lauren with clear eyes. She asked if her time was up, and Lauren gently told her the honest truth. Instead of feeling afraid, she was entirely relieved. She wouldn't harm anyone anymore. She sweetly thanked Lauren for stopping her. Even though he felt terrible for striking her, he crawled closer to warmly hold her small hand one last time as she gracefully faded. Shayna's fragile hand turned into white dust before Lauren could even process her final words. She whispered that he was truly a good person, but slightly careless. Then suddenly, her echoing voice became absolutely crystal clear. Before he could ask what was happening, Lauren's vision heavily blurred and he completely drifted into deep sleep. The very last thing he heard was Lapis frantically calling his name. 7 days later, Lauren finally woke up in a bright, cheerful hospital bed right in the city of Kaffa. Lapis was right there, and completely exhausted. She instantly started complaining about how incredibly heavy he was, and how ridiculously difficult dragging both him and that massive greatsword back to safety felt. Despite her grumbling, Lauren could easily tell she was just super relieved he survived. When Lauren asked about Shayna, Lapis gently explained that things weren't quite as simple as they seem, noting that every single being has both a physical body and a spiritual form. Makes you think, right? The physical form was gone, but her bright spirit survived. Lapis was super frustrated because Lauren walked right up to the fading monster, which was an absolutely huge, reckless risk to take. Stick with me, things are getting weird. While they casually chatted, Lauren suddenly spotted a tiny, winged girl hovering right in his peripheral vision. Lapizes could not see her whatsoever. The phantom girl spoke right into his mind. She explained that when they touched hands, her absolute fear of fading away made her soul jump straight into his body. She was now his magical, spiritual passenger. Shayna promised to respect his privacy, but she admitted that leaving his body meant she would vanish forever. Lauren just did not have the heart to kick her out, even though a girl living in his head felt incredibly weird. His medical bill was the next shock. To save his life, Lapis used 5 crazy expensive potions. His total debt to her hit 30 massive gold coins. Making matters worse, their quest was officially a total failure, even though the dark monster threat around Hansa City vanished. Because Shayna quietly cleared them out on the way back, absolutely nobody believed their crazy story about a massive bone dragon or a phantom king. A few days later, Lauren sat in the guild tavern, sipping cheap drinks while hearing rumors about Hansa getting destroyed. Neighboring nations were already fighting over that empty land. Meanwhile, Shayna kept hovering in his vision, sharing his senses, and even tasting his cheap drink. Lauren realized he must keep Shayna a total secret from Lapis. Even though Lapis was his partner, she was also a demon with a super clinical way of seeing the world. Now watch closely. If she ever discovered he was hosting a top-tier phantom, she would absolutely try to experiment on him. While lost in thought, Lapis strolled right into the tavern and sat down across from him. She was officially a priestess of knowledge, but she easily ordered strong drinks early in the morning, without shame. Honestly, she acted exactly like his demanding boss and personal debt collector, but for right now, she was the absolute only person he could rely on. While they hunted for their next job to pay off his massive bill, Lauren and Lapis chilled in the tavern, finally relaxing after their nightmare mission. Even though the job technically failed completely since the entire city got leveled and Shayna, the girl they tried to save, became a ghostly spirit, Lauren still got reward money for clearing out those zombies. To her absolute shock, Lauren actually used his own cash to buy his drink instead of just adding it to his debt. Lapis could not believe it, but she reminded him she would not nag about the 30 gold coins he still owed. That was a ridiculously massive amount. It was enough cash to feed a whole family for 10 long years. Most regular adventurers would completely freak out. But Lauren, an ex-mercenary, was so used to seeing crazy expensive gear out on the battlefield. He refused to let this huge debt stress him out today. As they casually chatted, Lapizes dropped a huge secret. She actually made a solid profit on their last job by borrowing items from abandoned shops in that ruined city. Since everyone was gone, nobody was left to return the stuff to. Lauren was not thrilled about her looting, but let it slide with absolutely no other choice. Shane, now a floating ghost following Lauren around, simply watched them with a very confused smile. Then Lapizes got super serious. She clearly reminded Lauren about her own personal mission to find her true body parts. Lapes was a powerful demon, so her current limbs and eyes were just high-tech magical fakes. As a powerful spirit, Shayna easily sensed Lapis was not human, and that Lauren's giant black sword was highly magical. You saw that, right? Lapes actually found a lead on her missing parts. It was hidden deep inside a dungeon, directly underneath the Wolf Adventure Training School. This fancy school trained wealthy kids and super talented students to become true neural heroes. To get inside, they had to take a specific quest, acting as expert guards and mentors for students during finals. Lauren hated the idea of babysitting stuck-up kids, but since Lapizes needed her missing parts and they were broke, he agreed. Before leaving, Shayna gently warned Lauren that his massive sword was way too big for cramped dungeon hallways, suggesting a smart backup weapon. Avoiding more debt, Lauren planned to secretly forge a small dagger using a portable magic furnace that Lapis had scavenged. The next day, they hopped into a carriage heading for the school, but immediately bumped into some very familiar faces. Klaus and his whole team, the hero group they worked with before, took this job too. Klaus just got out of the hospital. He wanted an easy, relaxing mission to slowly get back into the swing of things. Guarding students from weak monsters like goblins felt like a total walk in the park. But Lauren warned Klaus to never underestimate goblins. Speaking from painful experience. Meanwhile, Enage from Klaus's team kept nervously staring at Lauren. She finally thanked him for completely saving her life during their insane dragon battle. Lauren just played it super cool, confidently telling her that next time, Klaus would be the one saving her. They all settled in for the ride, hoping for an easy job. So what do you and I make of this? With Lapis's secret agenda, things are definitely getting complicated. A true hero avoids trouble entirely before it starts. But honestly, where is the fun in that? Come along with me. We're jumping right into this epic journey. Watching Klaus and an endlessly flirt. Klaus was an incredibly flashy swordsman, and remained his fiercely loyal companion. The cramped carriage ride felt incredibly awkward. Leela and Ro, two other girls from Klaus's party, glared at that happy couple with pure jealousy. Even Lauren's partner, Lapizes, this priestess giving off a totally mysterious vibe, looked completely mentally checked out. Trying to escape this super uncomfortable vibe, Lauren took a quick nap. Waking up, he noticed total silence. He realized Lapizes had actually used magic to knock Klaus's entire group out, completely unable to handle their endless flirting. Lauren worried that move was somewhat reckless, but Shayna, an invisible ghost girl magically bound to Lauren, quickly confirmed that the sleeping group suspected absolutely nothing. They soon reached Montel, this massive, bustling trading city built completely around a famous adventurer training academy. Lapizes explained the whole area stayed incredibly busy thanks to wealthy merchants and students. Being there for a school job, they immediately headed straight toward the local adventurers guild. To register, paperwork finished, they decided to grab a hearty dinner and rest at the guild's inn. Lapizes noted their actual mission meant escorting young students deep into a dungeon for an exam. This was absolutely perfect timing, since Lapizes needed to secretly search that exact dungeon to find her missing body parts. She literally joked about knocking those students out for an easier search. But Lauren instantly shut that terrible idea down. They settled into the loud, super buzzing guild bar. Lauren, completely used to the basic mercenary life, just let Lapizes handle all their dinner food orders. Glancing around the busy room, he noticed 4 teenagers looking way too young for this place. 3 cheerful boys and 1 girl. They definitely looked like academy students, drinking 0 alcohol. But that peaceful vibe completely vanished fast. Now pay attention here. This gets wild as rough, older adventurers start harassing the young girl, forcefully grabbing her arm. Her friends boldly tried stepping up to help, but got totally blocked by those thugs. Lauren simply refused to watch young kids get bullied. Lepizes didn't even bother looking up from her menu, simply warning Lauren not to take any lives so they wouldn't end up locked in jail before work. Lauren walked over, his massive frame quietly looming above the troublemakers. That lead thug, way older than Lauren, froze in pure confusion, asking who he was. Lauren stayed silent, his terrifying aura making it obvious this little party was officially over. Lauren kept absolutely quiet, his sharp focus locked entirely on that poor girl being held. He calmly asked if they were actually friends. She instantly panicked and denied it, admitting these guys were forcefully making her drink with them. That older adventurer just arrogantly laughed it off, loudly claiming they were only teaching these rookies how to have a genuinely fun time. Lauren slowly shifted his cold gaze toward the 3 boys pinned by those thugs. A well-built blonde kid named A practically begged for help, while another cocky boy told him to hush. Honestly, Lauren didn't care about their attitudes. You know what's coming, right? Watch closely. Told to mind his own business, he completely ignores the warning and simply grabs the man's wrist. A sickening snap echoed loudly through the entire bar, pure muscle and bone completely crushed. Lauren didn't even blink, coldly stating adults shouldn't ever bully kids. That adventurer shrieked in absolute agony, dropping her arm. But Lauren's crushing grip only grew tighter. His furious friends quickly surrounded Lauren, one even drawing a sharp blade. Lauren didn't flinch. He flatly warned them, take one more step, and their buddy would never ever use his arm again. Realizing Lauren was completely serious and totally out of their league, those terrified adventurers instantly backed down. Their buddy completely passed out from sheer agony, basically frothing at the mouth. They dragged him out, swearing to never cross Lauren again. The relieved girl thanked him, but Lauren just sternly warned them to avoid bars entirely. That cocky kid desperately tried acting tough, but the clear leader stepped right up to properly show his respect. Lauren simply brushed them off, quietly returning to his calm partner, Isis. She lightly joked about him somehow not breaking the furniture this time around. The very next morning, Lauren and Lepizes arrived straight at the famous Vault Adventure Training School. Since Lauren grew up surrounded by rough mercenary camps, he had literally never stepped foot inside a real academy before. While casually strolling through the massive gates, they instantly spotted a huge crowd of girls screaming and wildly cheering. Right from the center popped Klaus, that flashy adventurer they already knew. As an academy graduate, this guy was basically a massive pop star here. Exhausted from the intense fan attention, Klaus begged to walk with them toward the principal's office to quickly discuss that upcoming dungeon exam. As they walked together, those fangirls grew wildly jealous and hostile toward Lauren for stealing Klaus away. They started hurling nasty insults, mocking his rough hands. Before Klaus could even intervene, Lauren slowly turned around. He didn't draw any weapons, but unleashed a freezing, terrifying aura perfectly mixed with pure dark energy from Shayna, the ghost girl floating right beside him. Trust me, that instant reaction was far wilder than we all expected. The poor girls went completely pale, some fainted, while others were practically shaking in fear. Trust me, you'd be horrified too. Klaus panicked, while Lapis sensed something super weird. Shayna giggled happily, so proud of protecting Lauren. Meanwhile, Lauren just sighed, wondering why his life was always so complicated. He and Lapis simply decided to play it cool. Lauren calmly explained that the young students were probably just shocked from never seeing real combat before. Lapis wasn't totally convinced by that excuse, but she let it slide to focus on their job. Remember Klaus, the graduate who acted like a total jerk earlier? Surprisingly, he was super polite now as he guided them straight toward the principal's office. Lauren and Lapis secretly whispered about this sudden attitude flip. Was the guy genuinely reformed? Or was he just waiting for the perfect chance to betray them? Strolling down the academy halls, Klaus suddenly launched into a passionate history lesson about the place. This place was built honoring a legendary adventurer named V from 300 years ago. Lauren wasn't exactly thrilled by old tales, but Lapis listened closely, mostly double-checking if his info perfectly matched the mysterious facts she already knew. Klaus claimed that V had single-handedly defeated huge dragons and even sealed an evil god. The epic proof was a massive dungeon located right underneath the school. This finally grabbed Lauren's attention. Klaus explained that Wolf didn't just discover the dungeon, he somehow managed to fully conquer it, redesigning the place into an intense training ground. Things get way harder as you go deeper, but the 10th floor remains strictly off limits without the principal's special permission. You and I both know the deal. If her missing body part was anywhere nearby, it was definitely locked away on that final floor. The exam forced students to reach the 5th floor minimum. But if these kids miraculously hit the 9th, they'd actually earn access to the 10th floor as a sweet reward. They finally reached the grand office and met the principal, VF the 10th. This guy was an absolute giant, built like a mountain, with a booming voice so loud it literally made the walls shake. He gave Klaus a pretty hard time initially, but finally calmed down after noticing his newfound humility. Then, the giant principal shifted focus straight to the job details. Lauren and Lapis were basically hired to babysit the students. They couldn't interfere unless it was a total emergency, and the academy promised not to blame them if everything completely failed. He even confirmed that any loot found on the 10th floor was completely finders keepers. But he smirked, warning them that escaping with the prize wouldn't be a walk in the park. Checking the roster, Lauren casually picked a squad led by a boy named A. Funnily enough, it was the exact same group of cheerful kids he'd saved during a tavern brawl last night. He figured it was pure destiny. Walking over to meet the students, Lauren honestly couldn't help but feel a little bit ancient looking at their energetic, fresh faces. Beside the leader was Cloud, a lightning-fast swordsman, Al, a super timid priest, and Fime, an adorably cheerful magician who could literally only cast one single spell per day. While the hopeful group prepped for the dungeon, Lapis spotted Lauren holding a brand new weapon, a seriously thick, heavy short blade. Lauren explained he scored it super cheap since it was way too bulky for normal fighters. But for him, it was the absolute perfect backup gear. Lapis actually seemed kinda annoyed. She had secretly planted top-tier gear at the local shop, desperately hoping he'd buy it so his massive debt to her would just keep on growing. With everyone fully prepared, stick with me, we're about to see if these cheerful kids actually have what it takes to survive. The depths. Lauren refused, asking Lapis for a spare. He knew she'd offer something insanely expensive, and the poor guy was already completely drowning in massive debt. Watching a student party excitedly prepare, Lapis dropped a harsh reality check. She guessed they might survive up to the 5th floor, but anything deeper would absolutely crush them at their current, super basic skill level. Lapis explained that magical dungeon monsters operate completely differently. When defeated, they just vanish back into the dungeon instead of leaving a physical body behind. And since this was officially a school training ground, she really hoped the monsters were weak, but she casually muttered that if things got too dangerous, they might just have to let those poor students get completely wiped out. Lauren firmly told her he wasn't joining any dark schemes, but they had to keep their voices low so the kids wouldn't overhear their sketchy talk. Lauren was super curious about how a piece of Lapis ended up stuck on the 10th floor of a heavily guarded academy dungeon. Lapis figured her tricky parents, who were also incredibly powerful demons, likely snuck inside years ago. She explained she could sense her missing part naturally, just like Lauren could feel his own right hand. Moving forward, their grand master plan was totally simple. Shadow the kids, protect them secretly, and hit the bottom. But here's what you and I never expected. At the entrance, they immediately bumped right into Klaus, the talented adventurer Lauren already knew. Klaus was trapped babysitting a squad of wildly arrogant, noble girls, who specifically requested him purely because of his famous reputation. One spoiled girl named Parm tried talking down to Lauren, but he hilariously ignored her. Klaus looked totally exhausted. "Alright, stick with me here," and was completely annoyed seeing Klaus surrounded by crushing fangirls. After some super awkward small talk, Klaus's squad headed right down first. Lepizes pointed out one huge issue. Neither student group brought a thief along. Those noble girls totally looked down on that class. And A's group was just a tight circle of besties who seriously refused to invite any random outsiders. Without a rogue to spot sneaky traps or pick locks, they were begging for trouble, giving Klaus's group a head start. His crew finally stepped inside. The dark entrance stairs dropped them into a completely silent, eerie corridor. The team's mage, sparked a tiny lantern to pierce that heavy darkness. Led by A and the warrior Cloud, everyone nervously stepped right into the shadows. The massive dungeon corridor stretched wide, its ceiling hiding high in the shadows. Surprisingly, Lauren noticed, he could see the stone ceiling perfectly. Though the lantern light faded fast, Shayna, that powerful spirit chilling inside him, was actually sharing her crazy enhanced vision directly right through his own eyes. Lauren kept this wild secret quiet as they hit a crossroad. Leader A confidently guided everyone to the left, strictly following their school manual. Lauren strongly suspected Parm's rival group went right, just to avoid clearing out the easy path for their team. He did not bother correcting A, though. As their proctor, he only helped if asked, figuring these cheerful kids honestly needed to learn some hard lessons themselves. Besides, he and Lappies just hung back, acting as solid shields against any sneak attacks. The squad moved super fast, but found the first floor completely, weirdly empty. Lapes found 0 monsters. Super creepy. But the mage just cheerfully thought they were getting lucky. Fe even boldly flirted with Lauren, calling him mature, which made Lappies laugh hard and totally annoyed Shayna. Hitting floor 2, they finally spotted their first targets, 4 incredibly weak-looking goblins. The kids jumped into a messy brawl. Used a poison dart on one, while Cloud played it way too safe, barely doing any real damage. Al the priest was honestly the worst. He tried finishing a pinned goblin with his heavy mace, but kept squeezing his eyes shut in pure panic, missing every single time. Lauren almost stepped in just out of pure pity for the poor thing, but Lepizes held him back, gently reminding him this was their test. Now watch closely here. Lauren noticed these goblins were super thin and shaky, literally looking sick or completely drained of their energy. When the students finally defeated them, the bodies strangely vanished into the floor without dropping any loot at all, which shouldn't happen. Lapis guessed the dungeon's spawning system was broken, or something was actively draining the monster's strength. Despite these giant red flags, A and his team celebrated loudly, thinking this easy run meant they were already amazing adventurers. Lauren and Lappies knew better. At this horrible rate, these cheerful kids wouldn't last a week outside. Pushing deeper onto the 3rd floor, Lauren suddenly realized they still hadn't seen a single trace of Palm's group anywhere. The entire situation honestly felt like a giant trap waiting to spring. Lauren was seriously getting worried now. There was only one single stairway down, and moving this incredibly fast. They really should have caught up to the other squad, Palm's party, by now, but there was 0 sign of them anywhere. You guys are probably thinking the same thing I am. Lapis secretly checked her map, whispering that if Palm's squad was actually elite, they might already be exploring the 5th floor. Effie, the team's mage, overheard and quickly joined the chat. She cheerfully confirmed Palm's girls were absolutely top-tier sword fighters, while her own group, Cloud, and the rest, were basically just bottom-of-the-barrel students. Lauren was totally confused why the academy even accepted students with 0 actual talent. Lepizes explained it perfectly. The academy uses average kids to boost the talented ones' egos. Plus, the school scores sweet government funding for every single student they actually enroll. It turns out, the principal was basically just a fancy figurehead used for his famous name, while other officials handled all the money. Effie openly admitted they weren't expected to pass this exam. Usually, they would have failed by now, but since zero monsters spawned, they were just casually cruising. Lauren suddenly realized how dangerous this was. If these kids somehow passed with zero skills, they'd become official adventurers and get utterly destroyed on their first real mission. Lapizes pointed out something else super weird. She asked about Al, the group's priest. He was a noble serving the supreme god, an elite rank that usually demands incredibly high social status and actual combat skill, while Al was terrible with his mace and super timid. F completely insisted he was the heart of the team. He was the one who actively encouraged them to test, cheerfully promising they could hit the 10th floor if they just worked together, hitting the stairs for the 4th and then the 5th floor without seeing one single monster or trap. Lauren's bad feeling totally skyrocketed. Lapizes quietly whispered that the squad was moving way too perfectly, taking shortest routes and dodging traps like they knew exactly where everything was hidden. You and I know they had a cheat sheet. Let's dive into this madness. Lauren finally stepped in, breaking his observer rule. He warned the kids to stop at the 5th floor and head straight back home. He pointed out how wildly unnatural their zero danger run was. He fiercely warned them that breezing through like this absolutely did not prepare them for the harsh real world. It just made them lucky failures on borrowed time. Cloud was furious. Al quickly jumped in to defend their squad, arguing the Proud Academy would never run a totally broken exam. Al told Lauren to back off, confidently claiming only the gods knew the future and Lauren's gloomy predictions simply did not matter. Seeing the teens were blindly determined to push forward and growing truly bitter, Lauren backed away. Lapis tried cheering him up, but he was feeling incredibly down about his famously terrible luck. Since becoming a proper adventurer, nearly every single job he took turned into total chaos. Lapis mentioned the guild actually respected him for constantly surviving completely impossible odds. However, Lauren just saw himself as having an absolute master talent for attracting pure trouble. They followed the energetic squad to the 6th floor stairs. The students cheered loudly, celebrating their massive success. Meanwhile, Lauren watched closely, knowing that pushing deeper into this completely, suspiciously empty dungeon meant things were about to get terribly worse. The brave squad stood at the staircase top, staring straight down into the eerie darkness. A was fiercely determined to reach the bottom floor, prove everyone completely wrong, and find legendary treasure. Fim and Al were fully on board, while Cloud desperately wanted to show up the Academy nobles. Lauren and Lapis just watched them quietly, not saying much at all. Lauren desperately wanted to tell them to retreat, but he knew he and Lapis strictly needed the student's special permit to reach the 10th floor anyway. Lapis casually walked right up to asking about the permit. Cloud tried acting tough, but Lapis was so incredibly calm and charming that he simply could not snap at her. Proudly revealed a shining silver ring on a necklace. Lapis leaned in close to check it out, making a blush like crazy. She confirmed the key, stepped back, and they descended. Now pay attention, because everything goes wild from here. The exact second they stepped off the stairs, the vibe shifted. The ancient stone walls were completely coated in gross, cloudy slime that slowly wiggled and shifted everywhere. Lapis poked around, easily identifying them as slimes. Lauren looked absolutely disgusted. He knew these things meant pure trouble, but the students didn't care. Cloud boldly stepped on one, laughing about how incredibly weak they were as it just squished beneath his boot. Lauren did not find this funny at all. Lighting a torch, he kept his knife totally ready. He warned Lapis that during his old mercenary days, slimes became an absolute nightmare. Following a massive battle, slimes spawned from the chaos, growing incredibly massive by eating everything. They transformed into a literal wave of pure destruction, completely consuming every single person trapped in their path. The naive students simply were not listening. They were far too busy mocking Lauren for being cautious, or casually flirting with Lapis. Walking further into the shadows, Cloud spotted someone lying completely motionless in a dark corner. It was actually a young girl from a rival student party. She was completely still. Cloud and approached cautiously. When poked her with his sword, the body violently twitched and suddenly rolled right over. Everyone gasped. Her face looked exactly like an eerie, hollow mask. Her eyes were empty, black holes, and her mouth a chilling dark void. You see this, right? Red slime oozed from her face. It had completely consumed her from the inside out, leaving nothing but a horrifying, hollow shell. The body suddenly burst. A bright red slime aggressively leaped out, completely full of the tragic remnants of the girl. Cloud froze in shock, but the slime didn't hesitate. It lunged. Jumped in with his shield to protect Cloud, but the red slime instantly latched directly onto him. It rapidly started melting his shield and crawling up his arm. Another piece immediately forcefully grabbed his ankle. Screamed in complete agony as the terrible acid completely burned his boot and skin. Cloud tried stabbing it with his thin sword, but it did nothing to the liquid monster. A's arm rapidly turned black and red from the horribly severe chemical burns. Seeing the panic, Fim suddenly remembered her lesson. She quickly grabbed a bottle of lantern oil, heavily splashed it over the slime and the fallen body, and forcefully smashed a lantern down. Brilliant! Fire erupted almost instantly. Slimes absolutely despise heat because they are mostly water. The creature screeched, aggressively, pulling away from it to escape the roaring flames. A rolled away, coughing and covered in painful burns, but he was thankfully still alive. Al quickly started patching him up with standard bandages and medicine, actively trying to save his magic for later. Lapis casually asked Lauren his thoughts on their performance. Lauren admitted that while they were messy, Fim's quick thinking with the intense fire was totally solid. In a fight against slimes, if you cannot hit the core, burning absolutely everything down is usually the only way to survive. Lauren fiercely kept running, his boots crushing slimes with every step. Dealing with these monsters was an absolute nightmare because they were terribly hard to eliminate. Without using magic, usually mercenaries just burned them completely, even if it meant burning the person the slime was stuck to. Here's what you and I must remember. If you cut them, the slime crawls right into the wound. That's why Lauren kept a torch and knife ready, one to destroy the core, the other to bravely burn himself, if desperate. His massive greatsword was completely useless. Stick with me here. You and I are about to watch this crazy dungeon run unfold. Lauren tried warning the battered students to turn back, but their stubborn leader and fiery Cloud completely refused. The tension totally spiked when they realized their main lantern shattered during a previous fight. Cloud basically exploded right at Fim, the girl responsible, until Al lit a spare lantern using a fallen comrade's burning gear. The smell was terrible, but they had light again. Despite losing a teammate, their leader decided to move forward. They quickly scavenged what they could, even though Fim's fire ruined most of the poor guy's remaining gear. As they kept moving, Lapis, the priestess, clinging to Lauren's back, secretly whispered they should ditch this chaotic group. She did not care about the mission anymore. She wanted out. As they pushed deeper, things went south. Slimes were literally everywhere, and oil was running dangerously low. Then Lapis dropped a massive bombshell. Her limbs failed. Lauren thought it was a mana shortage, but Lapis explained there was plenty around. It was just not transmitting the right way. Lauren had to carry her, which was super dangerous. Slimes dropped from ceilings or floor cracks, and having his back totally blocked made him a sitting duck. Now watch this. They reached the 7th floor stairs to find a terrifying slime breeding ground, crawling with monsters. While debating turning back, a deep tremor shook the ground. Suddenly, the leader and others came sprinting toward Lauren, faces pale with pure terror. Behind them, a massive ceiling-high slime wall rushed the corridor like a tsunami. Lauren did not hesitate. He turned and bolted, easily outpacing the students, even while carrying Lapis. During the chaos, the students hid in a side path, leaving Lauren and Lapis separated. But Lauren refused to stop. He dodged slimes falling from above, and smoothly leaped over clusters, using mercenary training to keep a steady, tireless pace. While sprinting, Lauren accidentally plunged into a pit trap. Instead of spikes, it was a drop to the 8th floor. He landed smoothly and kept running, but the slime waterfall followed. Hitting the deeper level, Lapis leaned close. She pointed out that the air was completely thick with mana, way more than normal. Lack of energy was not making her limbs fail. Something was interfering with the energy flow. The insane amount of slime meant something extremely weird was happening at the very bottom. Lapis explained that magic devices failed simply because the surrounding mana was way too thick. Lauren did not understand the science, but he got the danger. Too much is bad. Lapis needed time fixing her limbs, but a massive slime wave chased them. Suddenly, Klaus popped from a side corridor carrying Anne. They were also chased by slimes that merged into a giant, fast-moving goo wall. You see this, right? Klaus lost a student, and the reunited group realized they were lost, and suggested heading to the 9th floor. She explained the keeper lived there, making it a safe zone. However, they lacked the key. Lapis boldly suggested going even deeper to the 10th floor. Klaus nervously warned that while an exit gate existed, a powerful guardian protected it. Taking any treasure meant the gate locked until the guardian was completely defeated. Lapis insisted she had a plan, so the group agreed to push forward. As they ran, Lauren and Klaus started to tire. Klaus's special gift was not enough to fight a sea of slime with just a sword. When things looked totally hopeless, the pressure suddenly vanished. The slimes behind them were gone. Shayna, the ghost girl inside Lauren, suddenly appeared only to him. She proudly explained that she used her awesome energy drain power to quietly eliminate the slimes, one by one. She warned Lauren she could not do it often, because Lapis, a priestess with sharp senses, almost noticed her. Lauren kept this a secret, telling the others the slimes probably just found other prey. Meanwhile, Klaus used his old student knowledge to pinpoint their location on the map. As they moved toward the stairs, they heard a girl screaming. They found Parm, one of the students, trapped waist deep in a terrible slime wall. Nasty tentacles pulled her in, and she begged Klaus to end it before she completely melted. Klaus simply could not do it, but he could not get close either. Lauren stepped in. He ignored the tentacles wrapping around him, grabbed Parm by the neck, and ripped her from the wall with pure physical strength. Parm was safe, but there was a problem. The slime had dissolved all her clothes. She was left shivering and naked, and quickly covered her with a blanket while Lapis checked her wounds. The slime had started eating her skin, leaving some nasty marks. Lapis asked to use her healing magic. Wild ride, right? Let's dive in. Klaus thought wasting precious magic on minor scratches was foolish, but Lauren just told her to go right ahead. Lapis offered an incredibly casual, almost insulting prayer to her god. Yet the healing worked instantly. Her sheer magical talent left even Ainge completely speechless, but Lapis casually brushed it off, expertly hiding her true, massive strength. Heading deeper into the dungeon, Lauren honestly couldn't tell if it was his crazy luck or just the prayer itself. But hey, the divine arts actually worked. Lingering down here was super risky, so Lauren decided it was time to move. A completely humbled Param quietly followed them, wrapped up in nothing but a simple blanket. To help her out, Lapis and Ainge kindly offered some spare clothes. Smart adventurers always pack extras, since getting soaked or filthy in a dungeon easily leads to awful sickness. Since mages like Ainge never carry heavy armor, she even brought along an extra pair of boots. Lauren lent Param one of his own shirts, which was so massive on her it practically reached her knees. He said to save the thank you speech until they actually made it back to the surface in one piece. When Klaus asked about the rest of her team, Param sadly admitted she had absolutely no clue what happened to them while running from the giant slime. Klaus tried to comfort her, but that tender moment ended abruptly the second they reached the 9th floor exit. Instead of a boss fight, they found a massive stone golem just kneeling there, completely shut down. It wasn't smashed to pieces. It simply wasn't moving at all. Klaus was totally confused, because these things were built to be tough. Lapis ruled out normal magic or divine arts, guessing someone used a secret password. Now, pay close attention here. This meant someone was totally cheating and had already sneaked down to the 10th floor. Lapis quickly unlocked the heavily sealed door to the final floor. When Ainge, the party resident magic expert, grew super suspicious of how easily she did it. Lapis lied, claiming she simply learned the neat trick from a thief. In reality, it was an advanced demon technique, kept totally secret from humans. As they finally stepped onto the 10th floor, the entrance completely vanished right behind them. They were now standing inside a massive room holding Hero V's legacy, piles of gold, rare jewels, and magic items. While the others drooled over the treasure, Lapis found her prize, a transparent jewel that was actually her own processed left arm. She quickly swiped it, hiding it inside her sleeve. Heading for the exit door, they suddenly noticed 4 people already there. It was A's missing party, the ones they lost during the massive slime attack. Suddenly, a toxic dart flew straight at Lauren, but he perfectly blocked it with his greatsword. The priest, Al, and the girl, Fine, just stood there, completely smirking. A and Cloud were with them too, but their eyes looked completely blank. Fine arrogantly bragged about using a dark mind control spell, turning them into obedient puppets. She then launched fire magic using special scrolls, letting her cast powerful spells despite not being a high-rank mage. They quickly realized they weren't just fighting regular monsters. Can you believe this? They were now fighting their own completely rogue colleagues. They realized Al, the seemingly shy priest they traveled with, was actually the true mastermind behind all this chaos. He smugly revealed he was just a talentless, noble second son. So, his grand master plan was reviving a sealed evil god, becoming its high priest, and gaining ultimate power. He manipulated Fine, a greedy magic student who joined for money, using magical scrolls to hypnotize their own teammates, and Cloud into acting as his personal, mindless bodyguards. Lauren wasn't impressed by this plan. Lapis then explained the dungeon's weird malfunction, and that massive slime outbreak was actually just caused by the god's ancient seal naturally weakening over a long time. Al's arrival was a simple coincidence he foolishly mistook for destiny. When Al tried using his hypnotized friends to stop them, Lauren quickly took them down without leaving a scratch, immediately intimidating Fine into totally surrendering. Al instantly collapsed in pure fear, dropping a small, plain metal box supposedly holding the god. While Klaus was tying up those traitors, the box started glowing with an eerie purple light. Despite Lauren's best efforts to knock Al out and ignore the problem, the fragile seal completely shattered. From that light emerged a young man with messy hair and incredibly sleepy purple eyes. He didn't look like an evil monster, he honestly just looked like a guy needing a nap. He casually introduced himself as the evil god of sloth. He explained that, centuries ago, he literally allowed Hero V to seal him away simply because he was promised he could sleep forever inside that tiny box. However, the box had grown uncomfortable, and since the old seal had completely rotted away, he just wanted to find a real bed. Refusing to let an evil god walk free, Klaus rushed forward, unleashing a super fast sword strike aimed right at the man's neck. To everyone's absolute shock, the sharp blade hit, but left 0 scratches. The god didn't even flinch, casually insulting Klaus's beloved weapon, bluntly telling him that such a dull sword wouldn't even be able to trim his fingernails. He clearly wasn't interested in fighting, but his insane power made it completely obvious that capturing him wouldn't be easy. Trust me, you want to see what's next. Klaus jumped back, shocked. His attack didn't even scratch this mysterious man. Stick with me here. The guy didn't even chase them, just stayed focused on drawing symbols on the ground. Done drawing, he casually joked about dropping a little surprise to keep everyone completely busy. He acted like fighting them right now was way too annoying, so he just started sinking straight into the floor to escape. Lauren knew stopping this dude was absolutely impossible, especially since those weird letters on the floor were already glowing bright. Right before the guy completely vanished, Lauren demanded his name. With sleepy eyes, he introduced himself as Donna Sloth, Arcadia, the literal evil god of sloth. Muttering that they might meet again someday, he completely disappeared right through the solid floor. The exact second he left, a massive and messy black blob quickly rose up to take his place. Lauren was completely exhausted from fighting these things, and shouted in pure frustration, expecting another basic slime. But this giant black monster suddenly rushed forward, ready to strike. Lauren and his tired party were totally cornered by this massive dark slime. Fire magic was out since the room was packed with pricey artifacts, and Lauren refused to make his massive debt to Lapis any bigger. Lapis actually loved the idea of him owing her, jokingly offering to get totally covered in slime if it somehow helped his case. Watch closely. The slime sped up, creating absolute chaos. The student Parm tripped, and while Lauren bravely saved her, poor Cloud got completely swallowed and tragically taken out by the beast. Realizing they simply could not save everyone while dragging tied up, unconscious traitors around, the team finally chose to focus on pure survival. The angry slime attacked Lauren, swallowing him to his shoulder. To save him, Shayna, the ghost girl inside him, unleashed her energy drain ability at max power. She completely drained the slime and heavily pumped all that raw energy right into Lauren. Using that massive burst of borrowed strength, Lauren swung his epic greatsword, shredded the beast from within, and fully crushed its core. 3 days later, Lauren woke up in a Kapha hospital. Lapis cheerfully explained she used her priestess skills to hack a teleport gate for his absolute safety. Lauren's body was a total mess. Torn tendons and dislocated shoulders because his human frame just could not handle the insane power. Shayna pushed into him. Lapis cheerfully gave the recap. Al the mastermind got sent to a monastery forever. Fim was expelled and vanished entirely. A barely survived, but was deeply traumatized. Parm totally failed the exam, but promised to repay Lauren. The academy counted their wild mission as a success, so they finally got paid. As for that evil god they accidentally awakened, nobody knew where he vanished to. However, Lapis actually had one amazing piece of good news. She surprisingly got her real biological left arm back as a sweet reward for surviving the chaos. She cheerfully told Lauren she hoped to continue until her entire body was perfectly restored. Lapis stared at Lauren from just inches away, her eyes searching for an answer. Lauren completely knew. She wanted to discuss those dark powers he used to survive that crazy mission. I know what you're thinking, but he wasn't ready to explain the ghost girl living inside him. To totally dodge the question, he just warmly thanked Lapis for carrying him to the hospital again. Lapis saw right through it, and puffed her cheeks in annoyance, but kindly didn't push. She simply promised to wait until he was ready to talk. Then she left him to rest, casually mentioning the hospital fees were coming out of his next paycheck. Once fully recovered, Lauren happily met with Klaus, a super handsome adventurer who felt he owed a favor. Sitting at the guild's lively bar, Klaus bought him an expensive wine bottle straight from the Vargenberg kingdom. Lauren, used to a very simple mercenary life, didn't even realize they were actually inside that specific kingdom. He honestly admitted that mercenaries never cared about boring politics or country names, just finishing the job and surviving. Klaus wisely warned him that gaining massive fame meant he'd have to learn this stuff. But Lauren laughed, joking. He was way too broke for fame. Soon, Lapis joined their table, looking incredibly annoyed. She had just checked the quest board, but found absolutely nothing good. She immediately started roasting Klaus, clearly despising his flashy lifestyle. Klaus took the harsh insults with a forced smile, vividly remembering when Lapis had previously used him as actual monster bait. Lapis then quickly turned to Lauren with a fresh plan. She cleverly pointed out they kept failing official quests, so maybe taking a quick break from them was best. Instead of formal missions, she suggested heading north to the Black Forest to hunt monsters independently. After all, the guild pays solid cash for monster parts, completely regardless of official quests. Even if they couldn't find many monsters, the guild still pays good money for scouting safe routes. It was a low-risk way to grab quick cash without the heavy pressure of a guild contract. Lauren felt super skeptical since his awful luck always causes huge disasters, but he agreed anyway. Lapis made it crystal clear to Klaus that his entire team was definitely not invited. Klaus laughed, wishing them luck. Trust me, you'll love this next trip. Alright, let's dive right into this crazy adventure. Lauren downed his drink, wondering if this journey to the Black Forest would actually be super easy. He and Lapis chatted about the Black Forest, a shadowy, dangerous woodland, sitting roughly 2 full days north of the city. Lapis was absolutely buzzing with excitement, while Lauren stayed focused on facts. Klaus, a local adventurer, had just warned them about the elves living there. He described these mysterious elves as gorgeous but highly dangerous fighters, following their strict laws. Klaus strongly warned Lauren to back off. Lauren shut him down fast, making it super clear he was definitely no troublemaker like him. Lapis had happily suggested this little trip so they could completely relax and clear their heavy heads after their last epic mission. Lauren quickly agreed just to keep her smiling. Being pretty broke right now, he let Lapis handle the fun shopping while he became the official heavy lifter. They happily rented a trusty donkey for their gear and headed out the next morning, walking casually straight north. While on the road, Lapis bragged that their donkey was specially trained to sprint back home if things got dangerous. She smartly picked a donkey over a horse, because horses were simply way too expensive for their budget. They spent the whole day walking and chatting about simple things, like how much Lapis missed taking fancy baths from her past demon life. But Lauren thought that was super unnecessary and incredibly expensive. By evening, they expected to reach a cozy town. However, as the sun completely vanished, they spotted a very strange red glow in the sky. Definitely not the sunset. It was thick smoke and raging fire. Reaching the town, they found it totally ruined. Buildings were actively burning, and thick smoke filled the air everywhere. Lauren checked a fallen villager nearby, instantly noticing a massive strike on his back. This definitely wasn't from monster claws or giant teeth. It was a perfectly clean hit from a weapon. Lapis quickly noted it couldn't be wild goblins or ORCs, because those beasts usually eat their victims. These poor folks were just left to burn. Now, pay close attention here. This was human work. Ruthless bandits raided the place, stole everything valuable, and set the whole town ablaze. They desperately searched for survivors, but found nobody left alive. These attackers had been terrifyingly professional and completely heartless, sparing absolutely no one. Even the town's tough soldiers had been brutally taken down and left right in the hot flames. Lauren and Lapis just stood among the smoking ruins, realizing their quiet trip had totally turned into a nightmare, with 0 warm beds to sleep in and a completely destroyed town around them. They knew they were walking straight into a very dangerously volatile situation. Lauren and Lapis stood on the very edge of this absolute nightmare. The town square was a total wreck, with fallen soldiers piled up and burning. These definitely weren't just random victims. They were trained guards wiped out by someone immensely stronger. Drawing on his heavy mercenary experience, Lauren quickly realized this definitely wasn't the work of common thugs. It looked exactly like a massive group of rogue ex-mercenaries turned bandits. Guys who lost absolutely everything in the same war that broke Lauren's old squad, becoming monsters just to survive. Lapis really didn't want to just walk away. She boldly suggested fighting back, but Lauren was feeling hesitant. They were literally just 2 people going up against a small army of 200 battle-hardened villains. However, the dark thought of leaving these brutal bandits to keep destroying peaceful villages simply didn't sit right. Plus, he was honestly pretty annoyed that they had totally ruined his chance at a warm bed and good food. Scouting the massive enemy camp, Lapis suddenly dropped a massive bombshell. She already knew Shayna, the girl who became a wildly powerful phantom spirit, was actually living inside Lauren's soul. Since the crazy secret was out, Lapis proposed a wild plan. "You and I both know this is insane." Lauren charges alone as bait, and Shayna uses her dark magic to reawaken the fallen bandits into a phantom army from within. Lauren definitely knew this was basically a total gamble, but he fully trusted Lapis. Gripping his massive sword, he charged into the night. As he quickly closed in, Lapis fired off a blinding light spell, totally stunning their archers. Lauren didn't waste a single second. He violently tore through the first line, his giant blade cutting through heavy armor and bone like paper. As the first FOs hit the dirt, Shayna's insane power kicked in. A thick, dark mist quickly crawled over the fallen bodies, stitching broken pieces of armor and bone back together in a truly terrifying way. From the darkness, a massive shriveled hand violently gripped the ground, followed by a giant skull. A towering phantom knight, completely draped in rusted heavy armor and swinging a massive polearm, rose straight from the fallen bandits Lauren just defeated. Even for a giant guy like Lauren, this monster was absolutely huge. Now, these terrified bandits weren't just fighting one single guy. They were completely trapped with a growing nightmare that literally fed on their own fallen friends. The real hunt was officially beginning. This giant phantom knight wasted absolutely zero time. It swung its massive, rusted halberd in a wide circle, violently cutting through the panicked bandits like they were nothing more than tall grass. Lauren, a very seasoned mercenary, could only stand back and watch in shock as FOs were tossed into the air with every single casual strike. That's where we leave it. The powerful spirit. Shayna teased Lauren, saying he could easily take one down. Let's dive in. Lauren wasn't convinced. Watching the bandits fiercely launch arrows and heavy strikes to fight back, despite taking direct hits, the Phantom Knight felt zero fatigue. It just kept swinging with wild, unstoppable energy. Then, it got incredibly mysterious. A dark mist rolled over the fallen FOs, and boom, a second Phantom Knight emerged from the shadows, quickly followed by a third and fourth. The bandits completely panicked and broke. Realizing their attacks were totally useless, they scattered, desperately running away. But Shayna was definitely not finished having fun with these guys yet. She summoned an entire pack of spooky phantom hounds to block all escape routes. These glowing beasts were lightning fast, happily pouncing on the running men and overwhelming them completely. Lauren actually shivered as he heard Shayna bursting with wild, excited laughter echoing inside his mind. She sounded like she was throwing the ultimate party, making this entire bizarre situation feel hilariously creepy for him. You saw that coming, right? Within minutes, a bustling camp of 200 guys became a totally silent ruin. Then Lapis, our clever priestess, with a cheeky dark side, casually strolled up. She felt absolutely zero pity for those bandits, cheerfully telling Lauren that they got exactly what they asked for. While Lauren felt slightly sorry watching them get chased by monsters, Lapis was happily planning out all the epic loot they could grab once the crazy battle finally wrapped up. She totally started teasing him, acting super playful and poking him, while the sounds of the final struggle completely faded into the quiet background. Seeing those two happily bickering like teenagers, Shayna kindly decided to let them enjoy their fun little moment. She gave her shadowy minions one final order to finish up, then smoothly vanished back inside Lauren to rest. And that is where we leave them, alone in the ruins.